started. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 37 of the Anatomy Podcast. We are so close to the end of 2022, that being year two of this podcast. And if this ends up being the last episode of the year, I'm pretty satisfied with that because as you guys can see, we have DeAndre and Adam from A Wake in Providence, people. Like, above all else, obviously, I have loved every single band who has decided to take the time, jump on the podcast, tell their story, tell their history. But I got to be honest, I have been following this band since their last album cycle, the Black Sun, the Blood Moon, and I listened to everything before that. And then obviously, as we all know, with the kind of boom creatively in the industry of blackened deathcore with the likes of Worm Shepherd, namely Lorna Shore and Will Ramos being this band's original vocalist. Above all else, like, I am excited to be doing this session tonight. And for those of you who are aware, we have a pretty good formula that we try to stick to, but we bounce around to keep it as organic, as authentic as possible. The first half of the podcast will really be digging as deep as we are allowed into the history, into the story of the guest at hand in session. We'll be kind of just learning the human side of everything that they do up to this point, right? And then in the second half, we'll be asking all the questions y'all would be in person, like, hey, how is the band name A Wake In Providence? Or what about this new album? What's going on? All just like the really clickbait questions that you guys would be asking in person, but maybe the social awkwardness or a whole bunch of other people wanting to talk to these guys in person when they have the opportunity to see them live, all that fun stuff. That's why you come here. It's a band glossary. It's an encyclopedia for all of these various amazing musicians that, again, are allowing us to take the time with them that they are to tell their story. So first off, gentlemen, Adam, DeAndre, how you guys doing tonight?
Hey, what's up, man?
Good. And I cannot hold this podcast session probably to date. For me, it's currently 32 degrees now. It is. Holy moly, it just jumped down. It was 38 when we last checked that on my end. That's crazy. So we are truly like 2 days away from what is truly winter. And I mean, I can only say that I've really been appreciating my time here in Tennessee, being able to experience all four seasons, born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. Well, there's only like 2 seasons, and 90% of the year it's blazing hot. Even this time of year, it's like still muggy. It's still like 70 degrees. It's awful, but it's been really awesome being out here and just talking with all these bands, namely on the podcast. But again, we got the formula. We're going to be talking about the people. We're going to be learning their story. And then we'll be talking about all of the band stuff. And if you gentlemen are willing to, I would love to do an Under the Skin segment for Eternity, go track by track and tell the story of this album, which almost, to me, it's like the blackened deathcore community's equivalent of the Odyssey, whether the album cover, all the orchestral elements. So if you gentlemen are willing to, I would love to dig under the skin of that later in session. But starting off, let's go ahead and get right into it. Give these gentlemen as much time as they need to, really. Go ahead and introduce yourself. I mean, people know who the hell you guys are. But if anything, give us like an elementary level intro for those who happen to not know who you are. Either one of you can take it away. Just tell us your name, what your role in the band, and where you were like born and raised primarily, but on a surface level, and we'll go ahead and proceed from there.
Yeah, Andrew, you want to go first?
You go first.
What? You got to construct some shit in your mind?
No, I know that the people want to hear from you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, man, I'm Mercer. Born and raised in Orlando, Florida, if we want to be technical, Winter Park. And just sort of had a normal childhood growing up, middle class childhood, and then played sports and started to drift more towards music and the arts. Once I started to enter 14 to 16 range and learned how to do vocals and joined a band in high school with some really, really good people, really good friends, and had a really good time. But that sort of gave me the platform and the ability to mature and grow as a person and a musician and a vocalist. And around that time, that stuff sort of did start to fall apart with that project or with that band. Shortly after, DeAndre reached out to me, and that's sort of where our stories kind of collide.
Sick. Yeah. And in that case, DeAndre, go ahead and provide us your elementary level introduction. Just, kind of introduce yourself to the class per se.
So my name is DeAndre Tyre. I've been a musician, I guess, since technically like 2006, maybe 2007. I didn't come from metal or rock or anything really at all. I'm from the inner city of Brooklyn, I guess is the easiest way to put it. And then over time, we moved around a lot, and then I met up. In middle school, I became friends with some people. They introduced me to Linkin Park, and I was like, "All right, this is the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life." And then just fast forward from there, and then music became super important. So much so that I started a band, which, funny enough, I actually just went back into an old hard drive from that time and found some photos and videos from that time. And my first band started in 2009, or technically my first band started in 2009, called Kill Driver.
Okay.
This is the dorkiest thing ever. We replaced the E with the 3 because there was a different band called Kill Driver. So we were like, the easiest way for us to avoid any sort of legal issues while we're in high school is to change the E to a 3. Did that a little while, and then started getting into deathcore, which I did not like for a long time. And then I ended up starting A Wake In Providence with our first vocalist, actually.
Right.
Not Will. They had a different vocalist.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we actually were planning to make this a very, very, very kind of 2010 era metalcore band, really like early Devil Wears Prada, early like Attack. Like that was our original plan.
Really?
And then dude. And then what was the album? I think it was The World Is Yours or The World Is Ours by Upon a Burning Body came out. And that was it. We were floored at whatever that album was. We were enamored by it. So it was like my vocalist Chris came to me. He was like, "All the stuff that you wrote, throw it out. We need to write stuff like this now." I was like, "Dude, I don't know deathcore. I don't know how to do or what that was at the time. Whatever that was. I call it deathcore, but." And then I tried my best. If you search hard enough, you'll find that demo. It does exist in the ether of the internet somewhere. But that was my first kind of like attempt at doing that, and I to this day still don't feel like I know what I'm doing when it comes to deathcore. But
really,
we'll talk more about that, I'm sure.
We'll talk more about that.
Yeah. But yeah, we like I said, we'll get into more details about the band and stuff like that. But yeah, that's pretty much where all this started.
Absolutely. That's a great start. And I love that elementary, like that's not even elementary, man. You might as well be hiking into like high school or college, because that's enough for a freaking resume. It's like, okay, I was born and raised here, got into a whole bunch of bands, did all this, and here we go. I'm like, oh shit, okay. So great start, absolutely. And thank you guys both for providing those introductions. So it's funny because before session, we were just talking about this before I started recording, really. My dumbass thought that everybody, at least presently in the lineup, was from New York, right? So when Adam was like, "Oh yeah, I'm from Orlando," I'm like, "Oh shit, what the?" Okay, so now we got to learn about that, and I'm sure that there are plenty of people in the audience, right, in the listening pool on Spotify. I don't know how many followers you guys have, but I know you have a shit ton, whether on Spotify, YouTube, or your various platforms. So if anything, Adam, basically what I would want you to do is go ahead and tell as much as you wish to concerning everything you feel is relevant in your story that led you eventually to A Wake In Providence. You can go into as much detail as you want. You have no time limit per se, because this is your time. So go ahead and take it away, man.
All right. So I'll probably just start off by making sort of just making it well known that I was raised in, like I did mention earlier, like, you know, just a regular middle class family, but we were like very strict with Christianity and just a lot of stuff like that. Like I couldn't watch Harry Potter. I couldn't listen to anything that wasn't Christian music. So I'll just preface this with that. I started like as musical as it got from when I was little was like starting off singing in church. And then once I got into like grade school, more so like middle school and high school is when I joined like official choirs and then started to just learn from an early age, just pitch and, you know, this is how, you know, you sing a song and this is what registry this, like my voice is at here and, you know, just the basic stuff like that. And I wouldn't say I aspired to be anything like in that realm. I just liked the camaraderie and, you know, it was a cool elective to have.
Yes.
So through that, you know, I just sort of got familiar with music and I'd say at around like sixth grade, somewhere around there. I have two older brothers, and one of them was really rebellious, and he could drive, and he had burned a couple CDs, and one of them was like the Slipknot self-titled EP or album, and
Top tier.
Top
yeah,
tier.
my mom was taking me to a doctor's appointment because I had broken my wrist. So she was driving me to it and the CD's in there, it plays, and my mom immediately like tries to turn it off and I like grab her wrist. And I'm like, no, I'm like, what is this? And she's like, you like this? My mom was the more lenient one when it came to like breaking the rules as far as God's rules.
Yeah, same as mine.
Yeah. So she let me listen to Wait and Bleed, and I was hooked from there. But it wasn't like freedom from there. It wasn't like dive into every single band you want now. It was still sort of like on the low. So
yeah,
a lot of the bands that I was listening to, I didn't know it, but they were just like Christian versions of real bands. So like I used to listen to this band like called Thousand Foot Crutch, and they were just like a Christian version of Korn and like
I forgot that band existed, dude.
And then
I completely forgot about that band.
And but from there it I started to figure out like, okay, like even though these are Christian bands, it doesn't mean I'm like not allowed to listen to this genre of music.
Right.
So then I started to find bands like Haste the Day and August Burns Red and The Devil Wears Prada.
Yes.
And then like around that time, I would say like 14 to 16 is when I like really started to get into the heavier side of things. And I really wanted to learn how to scream. I had a buddy who like, you know, taught me the basics, but nothing like serious. And then there's this kid that I really wanted to be friends with throughout middle school, but I didn't really have any mutual friends, and it would have just been weird to try and like, I don't know, interject myself into his social life.
Yeah.
So then, but he knew of me, and we knew of each other. And I think my sophomore year of high school, it was like the first day of school, and I'm in chorus, and then the whole class settles down and everything, and he's late, like 5 minutes late. And right when he walks in, I'm like, oh shit, this is my chance to like get in with this kid. And he doesn't know anyone, and I can tell he doesn't know anyone. And I'm like, yo, over here. So he comes and sits down, and then like we become really good friends throughout like the next 2 years. And the reason why I wanted to be friends with him is because he was really good at vocals, like really good for how young he was, and he knew all the techniques, and I knew he could help me like pinpoint like really how to do this. And we just became really good friends. He taught me, and from there we lived together for a little bit, and that's when I started to get really good. And around that time, I joined like my childhood band, which was Entombed in the Abyss.
Right.
And throughout that experience, it was like really good. And I feel like a lot of people are separated from, like, a lot of people know who we were and what that project was. Like, we had mild success. And we were coming up alongside bands like Body Snatcher,
Yeah,
and Traders, and Dealey Plaza. We came shortly after like the tail end of King Conquer, and we came up with all those dudes. We used to go to shows with all those dudes. Like Kyle Medina, I remember seeing him at shows before he even was in Body Snatcher. Like I go way back with a lot of those guys, but because there's that disconnect between how south we are,
yes,
and the scene down here, and north they are, everything just gets lost in translation. So like, I feel like even a lot of people from down here don't even know that I'm in A Wake In Providence. Like, they're just now starting to have it click. And then also, like, common misconception, right? So like, you thought I lived up there with them, or like it was a situation where I grew up there.
yes.
And a lot of people think that, or a lot of people think I moved up there.
Right.
And yeah, there's just like a lot of confusion around around the subject of like like on the Black Sun, the Blood Moon. That was my first release with A Wake. And a lot of people still think that's Will. It's crazy. It's crazy. But you know, I don't get upset over stuff like that. And it doesn't matter to me, mainly because like I'm my own worst critic. And if I can be satisfied and proud of something that is put out, then that's enough for me.
Right.
And people don't know who I am. It's whatever. Everything will come in time.
Yes.
Like, you know, I'm sure insert vocalist who had to come after another great vocalist. It took them a while before people were like, oh, okay. Like, it took me a long time to get on like the Joey Bad train for Fit for an Autopsy, just because I was Nate, and I, you know, I sort of had to take a step back and look at it how I was looking at situations like that, where like maybe you're biased because you already are familiar with the original vocalist or whatever vocalist was in the band.
It's just how we saw it's like how we saw Hellbound. Like me, that was like when like I said, we'll get into it more. But when me and Adam first started hanging out, like and hanging out, and by hanging out I mean him joining the band, because he lived so far away at the time,
Right.
or still. But that was one of the primary things that I remember us talking about early on, of like Hellbound is like top tier deathcore record to us, and it's like that album's amazing, and yeah, everything else they're doing is good, but it's like it was that Nate just sounded pissed off on that record, and to us at that time, Joe wasn't doing that. But
Yeah.
like now, I've now become a Joe convert.
Yeah.
I love the dude's vocals.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But Adam, continue. Sorry.
But yeah, I just sort of had to take a step back, and you know, when you want something too much, it doesn't come as fast as you want it to.
No.
But when you let go and just let things happen organically and not make too much of a deal out of it, then
Yes.
things go smoother, and I feel like you're respected more for that. Like most of my favorite vocalists, no one knows who they are. Like, not no one, but only the niche people know who they are, which would be like Nate from Fit for an Autopsy, and then Nick Arthur from Molotov Solution. Even though, like, when you hear when the deathcore fan, the aged deathcore fan, hears Molotov Solution, they're like, "What do you mean no one knows who they are, bro? Come on!" Like, the percentage of fans that we are seeing now, as opposed to 2012,
Exactly.
like, they're
So
not
newer, and
you remember them being.
Mhm.
So like, Nick Arthur, in my opinion, should be like on everyone's Mount Rushmore, but he's not. Like, Phil Bozeman isn't even on people's Mount Rushmore anymore. Like,
but you see that in just a matter of kind of how a lot of the, because what I was thinking of when you said what you said just now is like, you look at the change in age, and that's one of the things that's such a dramatic, like, has such a dramatic impact on that, because I've been noticing this kid pop up on our Instagram every now and then. I only know him by his Instagram name. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I think it's like Metal Oreo or something like that. And he seems like a young kid, and he's become a fan of ours. And that seeing that dude really puts into perspective kind of how long we've been doing, or I'll say I've been doing this in this band particularly, which then puts into perspective how long Adam has been doing what he's been working on, or Jesse or Jordan, and then you look at bands like Molotov. It's like we played a show with Molotov a bunch of years, Molotov, Fit for an Autopsy, and Die Artist Murder at the Championship Bar and Grill a bunch of years ago, before all of those dudes were the kings of the genre.
Yeah. And
to us, it's like they're still there, yeah, sure, but there are other people who know them for their newer stuff, and they're like, this is what the barometer is,
Right.
Whereas, again, that was another thing that me and Adam really bonded about, was our mutual love for Insurrection, and just saying like how phenomenal that album is, and how I don't want to say underrated, but I guess when you look at it in the comparison of kind of just what came after, or what continued to come after, how underrated Nick Arthur is. Like, that dude is a wildly good vocalist. But yeah.
But yeah, and like I was saying earlier, like I have sort of accepted that I'm going to be a slow burn. Like, I'm not going to be like, we're not going to put out a music video, and I'm not going to become the talk of deathcore. And, and I'm okay with that. And to be honest, if that did happen, I don't know if I would handle that well.
Right.
I really do. I really do like the pace that we're moving at, and everything will come in time. You can't get so out of shape over how things look, and just be happy with how things are.
And I feel like if you guys don't mind, I feel like that's a perfect transition into kind of like where our stories kind of intersect.
Absolutely.
Because that's kind of roughly about where me and Adam ended up meeting, where we right before we started talking about the vocalists.
Absolutely.
Long story short, Like I said, I'm from Brooklyn, and then it was not. I don't know if it's very obvious by my skin color, but this genre of music was not particularly predominant in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So it was a long time before I got into it, and it just kind of happened over time. I grew up listening to all the typical stuff as far as of that area. R&B, soul,
Yes.
hip hop, and rap, and all that stuff. But music never really mattered to me too heavily. Like some stuff did, but nothing too major. Anything that my mother was really into, or my grandmother was really into, that stuff spoke to me a little bit more. But of course, when 50 Cent's "Get Rich or Die Trying" came out, I had that CD, and it was in my CD player forever. But like I said, I became friends with some people in middle school. They introduced me to Linkin Park. Moved to Staten Island, New York, and which this is probably the weirdest part of my entire metal journey. I was in eighth grade, and there was a para, like a teacher, like someone who I don't know if people know what a para is, but a para is essentially just a person that walks around with a student to make sure that student doesn't do things they're not supposed to do.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like a kid who's either bad or they take a little bit, they need a little extra help to learn. It's a lot of different, you end up with a para for different reasons. But there was a para in our class, and back in the day when Apple's third version of an iPod came out, when they had the really shitty headphones that the music came out more than they went in. This dude heard me blaring Linkin Park and was like, "Oh, what are you listening to?" And this guy, when I tell you, and I mean this with the utmost respect, regular, just nerdy looking dude, glasses, Jewish guy, white button up shirt every day, really nice dude. And he was just like, "Oh, what do you listen to?" I was like, "Oh, I'm listening to Linkin Park." He goes, "You ever listen to Metallica?" I was like, "No, never." He was like, "All right, cool. I got you tomorrow." Comes in the next day, gives me a burnt disc of the Black Album.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, cool. Everything else is garbage now. This is the best thing I've ever heard in my life. That album is so ridiculously good. I don't care what anybody thinks about me. The Black Album is phenomenal. Moving forward, I heard that album, and I was around the time of the LimeWire days, so I went ham and just downloaded every single stitch of anything that I can find that had Metallica's name attached to it.
Right.
Heard the Ride the Lightning solo for the first time, and I remember exactly where I was, and that was the greatest solo I ever heard. And I was just all this just guitar, just like amazingness. And and me being 13, 14 years old.
Yeah.
And it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and it was the greatest thing ever. Then I got into Trivium, and then Trivium became my favorite band, and Matt Heafy became my idol at the time. Like my computer background was a picture of Matt Heafy. Like I was saying before we were talking about before we started recording, I was talking about the old stuff, my first band and stuff.
Yeah.
That I found the same strap that he had at the time. I used to stand like him, like really hunched over at my mic stand. I was trying to be that dude so bad in my first band. But continue on, like I said, and then ended up joining a local deathcore band in Staten Island. They were because my band broke up, and then I was trying to start something, but it didn't really work out. I ended up joining the local top tier deathcore band in my area at the time called Impartial Dismemberment.
That fits the bill.
I ended up joining that band, and that kind of got me into the deathcore thing. But I joined that band on kind of the tail end of their second revival, which unfortunately had some kind of time constraints attached to it, because those dudes were older than me, so they were kind of aging out, I guess you can say. All right, we gotta get jobs now. So as that was happening and we were slowing down, I started writing, because I was like, all right, I don't want to stop. I just turned 18. I was like, I want to keep going. I was working at Hot Topic at the time, and our old vocalist Chris ended up being a seasonal employee that got hired there. And I'll never forget this forever. I said, I was like, I'm trying to start a band, because at this point I was trying to find members, because I was like,
Yes.
I was like, fuck it, I'm starting a band. I'm gonna do it. I'm doing it again.
Yeah.
I approached him and I approached this other dude. I was like, yo, like I'm looking to start a band. I need a synth player. Like that was what I was looking for because Attack was hot. Devil Wears Prada was hot. All those bands were what was happening. So I was like, what's the album? The Asking Alexandria album. Scream and something, Stand Up and Scream.
Yeah,
that's what it's called.
Stand Up and Scream. Mm-hmm.
That album just came out.
Scratched. I like the next one more. I like the second album more.
Yeah, I did
Stand
too.
Up and Scream it did something for me at the time.
It did something for everyone at the time.
Yeah. That's true.
Help us slip into those jeans before school.
That album dropped, and I was like, yeah, dude, we need synth, we need cheesy singing, we need the comb over, we need everything.
Oh my god, man!
I was asking around trying to find people, and then Chris was like, yeah, I play keyboards. I was like, all right, sick. So we started talking, we were setting it up. I showed him some really crappy demos I wrote at the time, and then I was like, all right, dude, I need you to write a synth part to this, and then he goes, well, I don't really know synth, but I am kind of screaming. I did start screaming. I was like, all right, cool, whatever. So I had him do vocals over a track. I had one of my other homeboys. Yeah.
That really threw a wrench in my plans, but
downsize my expectations. Let's go.
Me and Chris we don't talk anymore, but I will forever love that story. I love that part of me and him becoming friends so much because it was just like the ultimate opposite thing I was looking for. Because I had a kid, I had two people who tried out for vocals, and I was like, I like these two guys.
Right.
And he said he was a synth player. I was like, hell yeah. And he was like, actually, I'm a screamer. I was like, all right, whatever.
I don't know.
So I had him.
It's balls, bro. Respect.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude. No matter what happens with me and that kid, for if me and him become friends in the future, or if we never speak again, that is one thing I'll always say. I respected that heavily because it was like, you know what? I don't fucking know what I'm doing, but you know what, dude? I kind of got this. I'm gonna try this. I was like, all right. I had him try out, and me and one of my homeboys who was not in a band in the band or even in metal, but he was a good friend of mine. Me and him sat down, we listened to all the tracks, and he was like, I used him as an impartial view, and he was like, that's the one that sounds the best. And I was like, all right. So I went with Chris as the vocalist. And then over time, we just got a bunch of different members and constant different members. And I guess this is also a good time to explain where the name came from. But in that situation, it was me, him. We had a bass player at the time. We had a drummer for a short time, but he was too young, so his mom said he had to quit. So he ended up quitting the band like 2 seconds after joining. But me and Chris were trying to figure out names, and we had I wish I still had it. I wish one of us still had it, but we had a piece of paper, like a piece of loose leaf paper that was just covered front and back with just a bunch of band name ideas. And I wish I had that thing because I would love to know some of the name ideas we had. But I remember one, and it's probably the worst thing that we ever came up with. But it was because we were trying to jump on that bandwagon. It was Arsonists Shouldn't Play with Matches. That was the original band name. I'm going to tell everybody here the original band name for A Wake In Providence, and we also were trying out female singers. I'm telling you, dude, we were going all in on the metalcore train, all in. And then I wish this part of the story was more climactic, but it isn't. I was watching TV. I was trying to find a band name, and then I'm scrolling, and I shit you not, I literally looked up every single capital city in New York. I mean, in the country, just every major city in the country, and Providence stuck out just from the way that the word sounded. And I can't remember what I was watching, but I was watching something. It was Wake something or some shit like that. And I was like, oh, I text Chris immediately. I was like, A Wake In Providence. And he was like, that sounds fucking dope. I was like, all right, there it is. So that's the unfun story of how the band ended up getting its name. And
then you found out it was a movie.
I found that out after we were already a band, after we had already put stuff out, and then I Googled the name looking for something, and then the movie showed up. I was like, holy fuck, there's a movie. I still haven't seen that movie.
It can't be as bad as The Devil Wears Prada.
Dude, seriously.
But
The Devil Wears Prada, that's a good name, though. It's a good name.
But that movie,
and isn't the movie really good?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like
you think
it's more of a hindrance, but like that, no one cares about the movie A Wake In Providence.
I don't think people know there's a movie called Wake In Providence.
It's on YouTube.
I named the band Wake In Providence. I didn't know there was a movie called Wake In Providence.
The only movies you see on YouTube are movies that like made for TV.
Don't care about.
It's always like the outsiders and stuff like that.
Hell yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much how the band got its name, and then I'll spare the details of the millions of member changes we had. But we had a bunch of member changes, and then there were some. Then Chris we ended up parting ways with Chris, and then so this is where Adam comes into the story.
Adam.
We parted ways with Chris, and then at that point, there was no kind of like. I'm going to say this here because I tried to talk to Chris about it, but there's unfortunate bad blood. Maybe he'll see this. I doubt it, but if he ever does, there was no kind of malintent with kicking him out or separating or however you want to say it.
Yeah.
Because we didn't even have a vocalist. We had no one lined up. No one lined up. It was the band at the time. I started writing different stuff or trying new styles. Because our previous stuff, if you or anyone has listened to it, our previous stuff was more beat down, or down tempo, whatever people were calling it.
Yeah.
That came about because we had different members who were like, we want to do this. I was like, they took my hard drive that was at Chris's house where I used to write all of our stuff, and they went through the tracks and they saw what I had, and they like chose all the stuff that was in a folder that said don't use. And they were like, finish these songs. These are dope. I was like, all right, fine. So I ended up writing the beatdown stuff because it's even that stuff is a departure from what our debut EP Serpent sounds like.
Right.
Which was like kind of like a more metalcore, deathcore thing. I don't know what it was, or some people called it gent, which I didn't understand. But so I ended up doing that, and then I ended up doing the Insidious stuff, and Chris's vocals worked really well on that stuff. It worked great. I feel like his vocals in the particular and my lack of wanting to write down tempo mixed with his vocals on that is what helped Insidious do what it did.
Yeah.
Because as much as I have a problem with that EP, it was just a very, very bad time in the band when that EP was done, even the recording process, everything. It was a rough time. So there's negativity around it, and I feel like that, as cheesy as it sounds, everybody says it, but I feel like that negativity really did help that EP become what it was.
Right.
We ended up, like I said, there was no one lined up or whatever with the vocalist and whatnot. And then at the time, our drummer Brandon and my other guitar player at the time, Josh, we were at the studio I used to work at, and we were sitting in the control room. We were literally just searching YouTube, finding vocal covers and trying to find a vocalist. That was our way of trying to find a vocalist.
Yeah.
We ended up finding a video of Adam, which I think Adam said, I think you said you took him down, but there was a video of Adam. Oh, you did? So yeah,
I made them unwatchable, unlisted.
Got it.
And then
got it.
I forget why I reactivated them.
I feel like it was a very similar conversation to this one.
Yeah, it was just like controversy over, and like way too much just like negativity. Like a lot of like if you go through the comments of like all my old YouTube covers and stuff like that, so much like negativity and like being young and wanting other people's admiration and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was upsetting, like more than it should be when you're young and you read shit like you should go kill yourself, like stuff like that, like because
the internet has no chill.
Yeah. Just like or like you're shitty, you'll just like mean stuff.
Yeah.
And then the irony to that is that's the stuff that ended up causing us to want Adam, is the ironic part. And for context, the video, it actually wasn't even a vocal cover of Adam's that made us want him. It was he put up a video of like here's a tutorial of how I make this noise. And I'll never, we had the mains cranked in that place. It was gigantic speakers on the ceiling, or in the walls, I should say. And he's talking, and it's, soft-spoken Adam, and he makes this noise that at the time we had never heard.
Yeah.
And we were like, holy God, that's what we need. So we're looking, we ended up finding him, but that's when we found out he lived in Florida. And at the time we were all still local to each other. So like our drummer lived in Jersey, which was 15 minutes away from us. My other guitar, I'm pretty sure I lived with my other guitarist at the time. And then our bass player also lived in Jersey. He was only like 20 minutes away at the time. And it was like, okay, that's obviously not going to work. So we actually never hit him up. But then going through YouTube, we ended up finding Will's cover of it's an old Last 10 song. I forgot what it's called.
Okay.
Numbskull.
Numbskull.
Yeah, he did a vocal cover of Numbskull, and it was like, all right, yeah, this is pretty sick. And then when we got to the end, there's one part where he does the at the end of the song where they do like that Numbskull, like that part. It just, the tone that he had was really cool, and I was like, all right, we were all like, yeah, that's it. So we were like, we couldn't get Adam, we'll get this guy. So we reached out to him. It turns out he actually lived like only an extra like 15 minutes away from our drummer who lived in Jersey, and that ended up working out. And then he was game, and then I had a bunch of stuff that I was writing that we were trying to work with, and then we did Iconoclast, which was. To this day, I apologize to the metal community for that song. I listened to that song recently. I was like, dude, this song is not good. I don't know. I was trying stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, you're experimenting.
But exactly. Yeah, Will killed that track. The video was a weird thing that we did, and we just tried it. And then the thing happened, and then A Darkened Gospel happened, and then then that shit blew up. And then after that, we started working. We started recording the Black Sun, the Blood Moon at the same place. It was like not too long after we did A Darkened Gospel. I want to say maybe 6 months after I completed the record, and then like I would say like 3 to 6 months later, we were in the studio recording TBS TBM, and then the at the time, seemingly the worst thing happened, which was Will and our drummer at the time, Anthony, quit at the same time. Before the album was done, it was a whole thing. It was like, all right, yo, can you guys not do this? Because we're finishing the record like right now. Like we just completed it. We've been in the studio for 3 months. Can we figure this out?
Like, what's going on?
Yeah, it ended up not being able to be figured out, which, it is what it is. Stuff, shit happens. We're all of us now are on good terms with each other.
Good.
And then I reached out to Adam, and I was like, all right, I need a drummer and I need a bass player. I need a drummer and I need a vocalist.
You guys did stay at my place. So it's not like
yes. Sorry,
it's not like it was like this weird, like, hey, you don't know who I am, but do you want to be in my band? By the way,
right.
You are.
Yeah, I forgot that. Will and Adam ended up. If memory serves me correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Adam. Will and Adam ended up becoming friends, and we ended up staying at Adam's house because we went down there. I think it was for like a one-off show. And Will was like, yeah, we got a place to stay. And we were like, all right, cool. And then I found out it was his house. And I was like, this is probably the most awkward thing I've ever dealt with in my life, where the vocalist that I wanted I'm currently hanging out with the vocalist that I wanted in my band. with due to our new vocalist who was able to be in our band.
Right.
And then we ended up becoming cool. And then fast forward, all that stuff happened. So yes, Adam's right. I completely forgot that piece. Then all that stuff happened. I reached out to Adam again. I was like, hey, dude, I don't know if you saw it. You may have, because the whole internet found out like 2 minutes after I did. I was like, hey, I don't know if you know, but both Will and our drummer quit, and at that time we were newly signed with Outer Loop, so they were trying to find a vocalist, and they sent me like a spreadsheet of a bunch of vocalists, and like none of them really fit. None of them really did it for what I was looking to do, or what I did with TBS TBM, because the album was already recorded. It was completed. Right. Vocals, drum, everything. It was mixed.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, it was mixed and completed. And then I hit up this dude. I was like, yo, bro, would you be fit? And he was like, yes. I was like, cool. Plot twist. I need you to record, what is that album, 11 songs? I need you to record 11 songs in like a week and a half, 2 weeks. Is that cool? I was like, can you just bang this out real quick for me? Like, so, and luckily, he fucking killed it. So it was nothing to worry about. It was, he sent me, I think, like just a couple of clips of just random stuff at the time, and I was like, all right, this was definitely the right decision.
Right.
And then after that was done, then TBS TBM came out. We did a couple of music videos, and we just did some random stuff. And then me and Adam just became really close after that. And that's essentially the long form version of how our two individual stories ended up connecting. And now we're here.
Sick. No, that's awesome, man. And like listening to your discography, obviously I said this at the beginning of the session. I got into you guys during the Black Sun, or the Black Sun, the Blood Moon cycle. And I remember seeing those music videos, and it was actually mainly like you, DeAndre, who was like, oh, this is different, because not only is there like a really gristly heavy vocalist, he's got the big old freaking spaghetti ears and shit at the time, or I think you had bigger ears or bigger discs, bigger gauges.
I had my ears surgically repaired.
Right. Okay. So I am remembering that correctly. That's good. So I remember seeing that, and then as I got deeper into the song, I heard DeAndre. I'm like, oh, he's making cleans work for blackened deathcore, where most people are like, no, fuck cleans, and all this other shit. Which, to this day, I'm like, if you don't like cleans, then you won't like my music. Which that's going to be actually coming out this next Tuesday. Cannot wait. No warning. Absolutely. Terrible marketing, but first song, whatever.
Drop it.
Yeah, drop it. Boom, bada bang, baby. And I remember listening to that and just hearing DeAndre. I'm like, okay, this is fresh. It combines really good elements, and I don't know, it just made it work. And that's really what made A Wake In Providence stand out to me. Was the combination of both heavies and cleans. It's balanced out. There were some orchestral elements, I think, on TBM.
Yeah, very TBS. TBS, yeah, you can call it Black Sun. That's fine, dude. I just call it TBS sometimes, or TBS TBM.
Right.
Yeah, to touch on the clean vocal thing, like I tried it a bunch of times with the two singles before it, with Dark and Gospel and Iconoclast, and then both of those just didn't come out the way that I heard it in my head. Right. But it was at least planting the seed. And then when I got to TBS, and that was I'm sure if you talk to Will may also have the same sentiment, but that was a rough writing situation for me and him, as far as writing the lyrics and writing the vocals and stuff. So that was definitely a part of, I would say, at least that was a part of his departure, was us writing that record. We weren't on the same page,
right?
Which we've talked about, and we've moved past, but I still feel that like that album was me being safe about the clean vocals. I still had that mentality of, people are gonna hate this, so I can't do it. Like I
not that much.
I can't add too much of it. And then subsequently, I feel that because I thought that, and because I did that, then it seems a little weird and sparse on the album, and like placed oddly.
Yeah.
Because it was something I wanted to try, but I wasn't confident in trying it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's definitely like kind of what that is, and I'm glad to hear at least it helped you become a fan.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely, man. And like, I don't know, from a very like early perspective and just like short story, started out with bands like Black Fro Brides, Pierce the Veil, got into like Asking Alexandria, got into Wage War during high school. And then it just got like heavier and heavier and heavier. I think like my first ever band period was Breathe Carolina.
I
Adam,
don't mean to interrupt you,
you're good.
but do you want to know some crazy shit?
I absolutely do.
Some of the first shows that Wage War ever played were booked with my band. Like, I would say like five or so of their first shows. I still have those flyers, and a
That's
lot
cool.
of them I had to book myself, and it was insane to see like that
Yeah.
happen. I've seen so many bands rise around me, bro. It's insane. Like Wage War for sure,
Mhm.
Body Snatcher, Traders. Like it's insane how many bands like come out of Florida.
Dude, seriously. It's
They,
either Florida, Cali, or like maybe a couple other states in the US. It's nuts. But and it's so now that I'm, here in the moment, I'm learning you guys a story and you're like, oh yeah, I'm from Orlando. I'm like, that makes so much fucking sense. Like, just another icon, man, emerging from the swamp, man, wrestling with gators as a kid or whatever. He grows up. I'm like, all right, Awake in Providence, bitch. And I'm like, okay, cool. So that's been super, super fun. Just like learning this story so far. Another great band. So as we kind of continue, you guys are, you went through the process, you got Adam involved into the project. And I mean, TBS was a very, very rough process as you're describing to me. But nonetheless, I would like,
hey,
what would you
sorry,
say was
sorry.
like,
You're good. I just wanted to add into that as well. It actually, like, I kind of stopped it there, but it actually continued to be a rough process even after the album did come out,
right,
um, because like we ended up doing a bunch of stuff, and it ended up being like us funding a bunch of shit, and then the label not pushing it, and then it just we had a booking agent, and then he quit. He just decided to quit booking, like. And then we were on a run, I think, like right before Adam joined. Like it's like different stuff like that that continued to just keep falling apart,
right.
which will transition into the further story of Eternity. But it just that album cycle just continued to just be bad.
Uh, that
Yeah,
sucks.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry to hear, man. Well, I
But it
mean, if
did really well. I think. I don't know. I don't know.
I'm
I'm still waiting to see.
right, and like that would be kind of like my question concerning, the rougher process and the kind of rough decline of that whole album cycle. What would you say was you guys' like breakthrough album? Was it The Black Sun or was it Insidious Phase 2? Because I was meaning to talk a little bit about that, but that's like even earlier than TBS. So I'm like,
We don't talk about Insidious
no.
Phase 2.
Okay, okay.
I'm joking, dude. We totally can. We totally can. But yeah, Insidious Phase 2, I get why it's considered an album, but it's not supposed to be. Insidious Phase 2 was just, to be quite transparent, was a way out of our contract. That's really all it was. It was the culmination of something that me and Will talked about doing. Will and I, we were always trying to figure out like kind of just different ways to kind of work and just do different stuff. And one of those ideas, I'm pretty sure it came from a fan, which was, I would love to hear Insidious, but with Will's vocals.
Mm,
And I feel like that always is the thing. Everyone wants to hear with whatever previous thing with the new vocal. That's nothing new. So we were like, you know what? Fuck it, let's do it. This
mm.
was before Out of Loop, so they don't have any claim to Insidious. Insidious is mine, So I was like, fuck it, let's just do it. But we need to justify it. So I reached out to our manager at the time slash co-owner of the album. I don't fucking know what he was doing, but I reached out to him at the time and I was like, hey dude, like we had this idea. We want to just we want to do this EP. We want to re-release this EP we did, but with Will's vocals, and we also want to throw a new song on there and also put Psycho on it, which Psycho was a single that came out after Serpents but before Insidious.
Okay.
And if you find the lyric video, it actually says on the like kind of artwork that's on it, or technically artwork because it was a picture of Christian Bale, and it was a copyrighted picture of Christian Bale, so we couldn't use it. That's why if you look on like Spotify or like Apple Music or something, the artwork for Insidious is just like a gray blob with the words on it, because we legally couldn't use the artwork we wanted to. But on the artwork in the video, it says off the upcoming EP Insidious, which came out like 2 years later, because Insidious sat in kind of development hell for a little while. So Psycho never ended up on it. So because of that, when we figured out, I guess you could say I got the opportunity to do Insidious Phase 2, it was, fuck it, let's put Psycho on it. Let's put an unreleased song on there that's been sitting on my hard drive forever, which was Of Hell. And then we had to scramble to try to figure out like, what's the guy's name? I can't remember his name. Oh, Davis Ryder did the guest vocal part for on Psycho. We couldn't get him. The timeline didn't work out, so we ended up getting Ben Durr to do it. And I feel like that's like one of Ben's like
so much better
unknown versions of something that he's done. But yeah, Insidious Phase 2, if it was up to me, it would be deleted, but I can't delete it. It sounds like garbage. The artwork came out cool though, because we just got the dude who did the original. He actually still had the files. I was like, can you just invert the colors?
Oh,
and he was like, yeah. So the color, because the colors on Insidious were just black and red, white lettering. But Phase 2 was all white with the red and then the black lettering. I think that's how it was. But we just mess with all that stuff. But yeah, if everyone could not listen to that, that'd be great. Let's just pretend it didn't happen. Just if you want to listen to that, go listen to Insidious. Just go listen to that EP.
That's so funny because obviously the fucking front to back listening session I have on my YouTube channel, I'm just like, this is interesting. It's definitely not fucking TBS or Eternity, but this is interesting.
It was not good.
I can definitely tell the difference.
Yeah, that's why you just let some of those ideas die.
That's
great. Look, it got us out of our contract a little early. Yeah. So I mean, like, I guess
there you go. So like, obviously, for a little bit of time, at least during the TBS album cycle and a little bit after that, or you said Insidious Phase 2 was the end of Outer Loop, right? Or what?
No, TBS was.
Oh, TBS. Okay. So after TBS, you guys were signed to Outer Loop, which is a pretty big label back in the day for like Lorna Shore and like, I don't know, I think Dealey Plaza. There are a couple bands.
No, actually, realistically speaking, there wasn't really that many bands on that label.
Right.
Now, not the management, because we were on the management first, and then that transitioned into us getting on the label. But the label was fairly smaller. It was much smaller than the management was.
Yeah.
So that's how we came up pretty close to Lorna, because Lorna was right over the bridge from us. They were in Jersey. So like we were doing this for a while, and then Malficium came out, and then they did that. they just jumped with Malficium. Yeah. But yeah, Outer Loop was a very odd situation for us because it helped, but it hurt at the same time. It was really, really weird. Really, really weird.
Yeah.
You live and you learn.
You live and you learn. Yeah. And like, I don't even know, because I've only really been involved in the deathcore scene since like about the tail end of the cleansing cycle for Suicide Silence. Like right after Mitch died, I happened to get into deathcore. I'm like, oh, so this guy just passed away, but there are all these like other bands that are just like boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, okay. One at a time, just like in a dense crowd, right? Overwhelmed by, well, what do you think of deathcore so far with the mic? I'm like, hey, get the fuck out of my face. I'm just getting started on this, man. Like, I just listened to Asking Alexandria. Give me room. Like, I need to breathe. I cannot be asphyxiated right now. So, like, getting started with all those starter kit deathcore albums and bands, I really didn't get involved with the deathcore scene until all of that happened. And I didn't know about Lorna Shore. I mainly just knew about Chelsea Grin. I knew about Suicide Silence and maybe a couple others like Job for a Cowboy who is that? You know, kind of still, because I haven't listened to most of
Top
their
tier.
albums or EPs. Yeah. And the funny thing is, they're an AZ local band. So at the time, I'm like, okay, so I'm hearing about this band. And then I basically turn away and just like I turn away and walk, you know, because I was just like so fixated on Whitechapel. That's another one for sure. They've been in a long time fixation of mine. And I love their new stuff too. It's great. It reminds me of like all the best things here in Tennessee. But just getting introduced to all those bands, I'm like, okay, so I'm hearing about Lorna Shore. I'm hearing about this dude named Tom Barber. But to be honest, I really only knew about him when he joined Chelsea Grin. I'm like, oh, he used to be in Lorna Shore. And there's like this was when there was the massive vocalist migration, right? So CJ left Signs, David filled in, he filled in for Lorna Shore, and then Tom Barber jumped to Chelsea Grin. I'm like, what's going on right now? It's like a massive just interlooping system. And I thought this might have been a regular thing, but it was the talk of the crowd for a little bit back then. Anyways,
That was a very interesting time in the
it
back end
was.
with the label stuff, because that a lot of that was happening while we were still on the label with Outer Loop while they were still on the label with Outer Loop. So it was a lot of odd conversations with the label about like what the future meant for the different bands and stuff like that. And it was very interesting to kind of see how much Tom going to Chelsea Grin really affected a lot of stuff from like I guess like I said, like the back end situation of the band.
Yeah.
Really, really odd. Which I understand, man. I like, don't get me wrong. I like Lorna's doing great right now, but to me, Tom was that band. That's just my opinion.
Right. Absolutely. Adam, you've been meaning to say a couple things. I feel like we've been cutting you off here and there. You have any commentary for what blah, blah, blah. Goodness me, what we've been talking about over the last 10 minutes?
No, not really. Like around the time that a lot of this was happening, I was just really like I wasn't even so like while A Wake In Providence is coming up alongside Lorna Shore, and I'm aware of them. Like I got sucked in with I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank, but
You're good. You're
Psycho
good.
with Davis Ryder. Me and my guitarist from down here, like the first time it came out, we were like, oh my God, this shit is fucking dope. This bangs. And we loved The Moralist as well. So it just made it even better. And yeah. So like while all that was happening, I'm just focused on like trying to further my band as far as like we can go, because
Yeah.
I'm not even thinking I'm gonna be thrown into the mix.
No.
Like out of all of the vocalist migrations, like I am more than likely the runt of the litter. And so I was just really focused on what I was doing down here, making vocal covers, finishing up my band's album,
Yeah.
and just ripping shows and
Yeah.
just like playing a lot of shows. So around that time, I was playing. We weren't touring, but we were in those steps of where we could make those pathways. So guaranteed, every time a big deathcore band came into town, my band was booked on it. Like,
Yeah.
we became that top seller, that top draw for a lot of promoters down here.
Yeah.
So whenever those bands did come through, we would get the email first, basically, like first offer. And so a lot of the time what would happen, this happened with Ian from Rings of Saturn, and this happened with Tom from Lorna, which was I would record a vocal cover of like a song from an album that they just put out or a new single.
Yeah.
So like with Rings of Saturn, it was like Senseless Massacre. And I would, be playing the show, and then either they'd recognize me. Actually, both times they recognized me. And they were like, "You're that kid who just put out that cover, right?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, that's me." And then like every time they'd come to town, we'd be on the show, build like a rapport, not like really good friends, not like messaging each other after, the show or anything, but like I'm a familiar face.
Yeah, exactly.
And I got to do guest vocals, every now and then. And so I'm just really trying to push my band hard because that's the only thing in my mind that's going to be available to me. Like, I'm not going to be able to start a new band like, I was lucky enough to have that band form.
Yeah.
And like, we were writing like really just groovy, chuggy deathcore, not like beat down or anything like that.
No.
Like, if you've heard, like, we based a lot of our sound off of like the Contagion album by Oceano, and Death is the Only Mortal from the Acacia Strain. Like, we liked Ramirez, or we liked God, my mind is pretty foggy because I've been sick lately.
No, you're fine, dude. Take your time.
Taking a lot of cold medication. DeAndre, can you help me out? What's
the Mouth of the River is one of my favorite songs on that album.
No, I mean the album before.
Wormwood.
Yeah, Wormwood.
Dirty.
Just like really into that down in the dirt, like just heavy, nasty deathcore.
Yeah.
So like I liked this new emerging style of deathcore, but I just really liked the style we were doing. Like, it was really relative to King Conquer. I mean, like on the last album we recorded, God Given Horizon, which was like our most popular release, we had James and Chris from King Conquer feature, and then we had Brian from Dealey Plaza feature.
Fucking sick.
On the album before that, the features were Kyle Medina and Nick Arthur from Molotov.
Right.
And so I was just really, trying to push that band, and we were starting to gain really good traction. And then we had 2 members leave, and we were sort of like, fuck, what are we going to do now? Because like, we're at this peak. And then we found a new member. So instead of continuing with 2 guitarists, we were just doing 1 guitar and 1 bassist. Yeah. And that's when we were really starting to shine and like do really well, which was after we finished that album. And then some stuff happened with the bassist. He did some shit at a party or something like that. And
oh boy.
Yeah. And it was like, fuck, dude.
I don't know what it is about this genre, dude. I don't know what it is about this genre, dude. Why are people in this genre so sus?
Yeah.
After that, like, we tried to revive stuff, but like it was just not working out. And around that time is when I got the A Wake In Providence offer. So yeah, it was just weird. It was really weird. Really weird time for deathcore, for this genre.
For everybody was odd, man.
Yeah. And so like that last album, we recorded it with Chris from King Conquer. Chris Whitted, shout out Chris, 1776 recording.
Shout out to fucking Chris, man.
But yeah, that's who I recorded all the vocals for the Black Sun, the Blood Moon with as well.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was like that was a super last minute, extremely clutch situation, which I'm pretty sure I came out of pocket for. I don't think the label paid for that because they just paid X amount of, I still to this day don't know how much money they paid to get TBS made. And then it was like, they were like, we need to put this album out. We're going to put it out with Will's vocals. I was like, we cannot do that. I was like, I did not put in this amount of work on this album for it to come out with a vocalist who just quit the band, right? Who doesn't want anything to do with it. So fine, I'll foot the bill for it. So yeah, I told Adam, I was like, let me know whoever you're recording with. We'll figure out the payment. I just need you to get it. Just need you to get it done. And Chris came in hella clutch. He was able to do it in like record time. Went between the time of me reaching out to Adam and then getting the vocals recorded was I don't really know. I don't remember off the top of my head how quickly it was, but it was very fast, very fast. Because the album, we already had a release date. Like the thing was already figured out. So it was like, we need to do this now. And Chris came in hella clutch on that. So.
Absolutely, man. And shout out to Chris, because we've actually had him on the podcast before, and he was a really nice guy.
Dude, Chris is amazing.
Chris is a dope guy.
Chris is the dopest, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Shout out to him. And you know, as we kind of like get closer to being completely caught up. Sorry about my mic. I'm sure it's loud right now. Older mic for sure.
No, you're good.
As we kind of get closer to like present tense, right? And obviously you guys just released an album back in October, one of my favorites of the year, guaranteed. I'll be doing a video on it soon, but like absolutely, yeah, of course. Peak blackened deathcore with like, I think the best orchestral, symphonic choir elements, like all of those, a good balance of all of those integrated into an album, which we will be talking about here in a second. But we're going to go ahead and pause real quick for our ad break. And then we'll go ahead and continue. Hopefully I can remember where that is, and it hopefully doesn't take me too long to get to that point. But welcome back, everybody, to episode 37 of the Anatomy Podcast. We are sitting down here with Adam Mercer and DeAndre Tyre from A Wake In Providence, a legendary band. What's up?
Tyre,
sorry.
Technically, I don't really know, to be honest with you.
There we go.
I'm just gonna be real. I think this is just. I'm pretty sure I've been told my whole life it's Tyre, but Tyre. It is spelled Tyre. It is.
That is, yeah. Oh well. Anyways, welcome back to episode 37, and obviously we're talking with these guys from A Wake In Providence. If you don't know who A Wake In Providence is, that's probably because, well, you're not subscribed. So please subscribe to the channel. Just kidding. But nonetheless, these guys are iconic when it comes to all things blackened deathcore. You got them alongside the likes of now, even today, Lorna Shore, Warm Shepherd. I would say, let's see, what are some others?
Crown
Am I blanking on this?
Is that the band I'm thinking of? Am I thinking of Crown Magnator? Is that the band?
Crown Magnetar. They're more like they classify more as tech death for sure. But
okay.
You know what? You're close. And Hell Follow Whip.
No, that's not that band's sick too, but that's not the band. There's a band I'm thinking of that I just recently found that is they have like really serious orchestral elements.
Right.
But I don't think, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think they're like blackened deathcore.
Right. But nonetheless, it is a booming genre right now. Like after all, freaking Lorna Shore's Pain Remains, like it peaked and charted at #1 on metal on iTunes, like for I think 2 weeks in a row. So the genre is definitely seeing a renaissance. It's seeing a major boom in the music world, and it's so cool to see. And therefore, again, I reiterate that it is such an honor to be hosting Adam and DeAndre here on the podcast tonight on the Anatomy Podcast. So we talked about their story. We have learned a lot more about them, and I hope that this ends up providing a lot of insight for all who follow and listen to A Wake In Providence. Maybe you have physical merch. I mean, shit, I got a flag and a hoodie that doesn't fit me because I bought the wrong size. And like, unfortunate, but it'll end up being a gift for someone else, and I think they'll really enjoy the gift. And I'll be getting more merch in the future, or I might get physical merch in person whenever they start going back on tour, which should be like, even just the premise of that is really fun to think about. But we've learned a lot about their stories, and I think we already got the question, A Wake In Providence, the name's origin, that being pretty casual, but nonetheless a great story to tell, and even more for the audience to learn. So obviously you guys are labeled and you guys are classified. You are synonymous, right, with the term blackened deathcore, at least up until this point with the Blackened Sun record and all the previous records. Like definitely blackened deathcore. And DeAndre, you were mentioning how really it started out more as like a metalcore project. and you were trying to just experiment with a whole bunch of different things. And I don't know, man, like up to this point, do you think the, like, collectively speaking, this is a question for both of you to answer, really. Are you guys comfortable with where you guys are musically right now, or is there still experimenting to be done?
Um, I can speak to that for musically and vocally, and I'm sure Adam could speak to that vocally as well. What I'll say is, which would be my answer for at every single point that something comes out, the answer is always no. I'm
Right.
never comfortable with it. That's why when you listen to our stuff, it's every release is different.
Right.
Because it's I mean, I said this on a different like interview that I did that Jesse and I did. I'm always learning something. So as soon as I learn something, I implement it. So the TBS and TBM was where I was at that time, and then God Killer was where I was then, and or Eternity technically, and then God Killer and everything else. So it's like, musically, no, never comfortable, because there's always a way to make something better. But after a certain point, I have to stop and put it out. Otherwise, nothing will ever come out.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, no, when it comes to that, definitely not. Vocally, I'll say for myself, and I'll slightly speak a little bit, just a tiny bit for Adam as well, because of how I am with the music that I write. I am just as critical of my vocals or Adam's vocals or the parts that end up on the record.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to talk too deeply about it, but I know that myself, are we happy with what came out? Of course we are.
Mhm.
But we know how much better it can be and how much more we can put into what we're doing. So that's my answer for that. And then Adam, of course, can speak
Right.
more to the vocal part.
Absolutely, sir. Take it away.
Yeah. Just as DeAndre said, like, the whole "you're your own worst critic" thing. It's weird. It's almost like the how good you thought you did on the record fades away like pretty quick. And I like Eternity. I'm proud of what I did. Like, definitely experimented with new sounds, new styles, and also just modifying what I already was good at. But I just want, and I've said this, like, when I'm like talking about, writing our new stuff or going to record our new stuff, it's just like, I could say a whole bunch of stuff, but it all just boils down to, like, I just want it to be better. Like, I
Right.
just want, like, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what, like, we're going for. It's not clear, but I do know whatever I am going to do and whatever we do come up with, it's going to be better than what we did. Better or different, however you view it. I just know that whether you equate, Eternity with whatever we do after this, it'll be as a result of us, like, working way harder than the previous release.
Right.
It's not going to be like, I don't think it's ever going to be like, okay, that album seemed to work really well, let's just write part 2. Like, I always think that we're gonna want to
Surpass yourselves.
yeah, just strap a rocket onto whatever we did and figure out how we can make it fly better.
Absolutely. And, like, just speaking for how things are going right now, within the last 2 years, I think Unique Leader Records is probably the best label. Like, obviously, I'm not going to be like, oh, you guys made a really good decision. Like, I'm not a part of the band. I'm not fucking Jamie Graham. But, like, speaking on behalf of how many bands and artists that Unique Leader Records has scooped in the underground, like, deep freaking, like, I don't even know, trench level, basement level, like fucking Earth's core level underground when it comes to all things heavy counterculture. I think that album 1 for you guys with Unique Leader Records. Pretty good start. Like fucking A, dude. Like
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I cannot wait to see what you guys end up accomplishing in the future, the tours that you guys end up going on in the future. Like currently, with this year in mind, with all of the great bands that have released music very similar to Awake in Providence, that being Lorna Shore, that being Nithful, Worm Shepherd earlier this year, even the last 10 seconds of life, because you can't just isolate it to one genre, and that's not how tour planning works, right? You can't just have a solely blackened deathcore tour. At least that's what I've seen. It's like you got to kind of add some variety to it. That way people aren't like, okay, choir, heavy, choir, next, just the same thing over and over again. But I do indeed daydream about, and this is mainly Unique Leader Records bands, like Awake in Providence, The Breathing Process, Warm Shepherd, Nithful, and like a couple others, and just ignite the church tour, and like not just aggressively
that's a good tour name too.
oh yeah, I mean, dude, me and Derek of Nithful have been bouncing that around, and that's I think been one of his hashtags that he's associated with Nithful, just very anti-Christian, anti-religious music. But I mean, shit, if like Jamie, please make it happen, man. I would love to see all these guys on tour one day. You better bet your ass. Like that would be so fun.
That'd be a good tour name. I think that's a good idea.
I give
Well,
all the
that'd
credit
be
to
fun.
Derek of Nithful, man. Absolutely.
We need to get all these people in contact. We need to start making moves.
Dude, seriously. And like to like top the cake, right? For me, like big bands outside of the record label that could really work for that would be Lorna Shore or Mental Cruelty, and or both.
That's
Like
the band I was thinking of. Mental Cruelty. Sorry, I'm sorry to jump in. That's
You're
the
good.
band I could not remember the name. Mental Cruelty is the band I was thinking of before.
I cannot believe I forgot that band too. What the fuck? Because I have so much merch from them, and I have like I have the special collector's edition box for their last record coming in the mail here pretty soon. I'm so excited. But yeah, ignite the church, Jamie Graham. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen, baby. That'd be so fun. But that aside, talking about all these bands, talking about this specific genre, like I cannot wait to see you guys tour. Like whoever you tour with next, I'm like, fuck it, I'm getting VIP immediately. Like,
Hell yeah.
I cannot wait, man, because I know you guys are amazing live, and I think above all else, Awake in Providence, even more than Lorna Shore, which is saying something. Speaking for the Pain Remains record, this is just in my opinion too. Like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the efforts via While She Sleeps in Architects playing at Royal Albert Hall and those major venues with like the orchestras and the live choirs and shit. Bring Me the Horizon too. They did that. I think easily Awake in Providence could be one of the first bands to utilize that for the deathcore scene. But that's just me. I think that would be
I mean,
really
like
cool.
hell yeah, bro. I watch a lot of like live videos of Flesh God and Demu and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
there's a video of Demu live playing with a full symphony size orchestra, and it is quite possibly the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Mhm.
And I want that. Like that's the goal. The goal is to play with a symphony sized orchestra.
That would be so much fun, and that would be so healthy for the genre too, because people are like, oh, they're getting up there. Lorna Shore's getting big, but they're still scraping the barrel, like he. They're getting the scraps. Like, no, dude, we're coming up. And I have every intention to make Blind one of those bands too. I've been daydreaming about it since I saw Bring Me the Horizon play Shadow Moses live, and just like the and
Yeah,
I'm
the
like,
choir that they got.
dude.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude. And then you could hear them saying like this is savage, like the whole fucking venue. I'm like, this right here. That's what I need. That's
Yeah.
what I want to make
Yeah.
someday. Because that moves people, no matter how heavy the music is, I think.
Yeah.
But as we
As a former like choir member, I just think that would be dope. So cool to see like an actual choir doing that live with us. I
yeah,
want to see those risers, bro. Bring
yeah,
out the
dude.
bro.
Yeah,
I like.
Rises.
I'm gonna have to give my guitar to somebody else, and I'll do I'll conduct
And
the
in the middle.
orchestra while somebody else playing.
No, that would be so much fun. I would love to see that someday. But as
Oh
we
yeah.
move into the this like further and further into the second half of the session, I wanted to go ahead and make sure you guys are okay with it. Would you guys mind if we went under the skin track by track and kind of dissected Eternity? Have you guys done that before?
Other than with each other, no.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Okay. And would you guys be willing to do that? Because I don't want to be like, okay, so we're going under the skin, and just like, hey, whoa, we don't have time.
No, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just gotta go to the bathroom real quick
Yeah, no problem.
and change that shirt because I just
while he's
actually I was like actually in the middle of lifting, and then I got the call, and I was like, oh fuck, I lost track of time.
No problem.
While
Man.
he's doing that, what I'll do is I'll talk about God Killer, because
Okay.
that's kind of like the middle child that I'll talk about real quick.
Absolutely, man.
That is kind of like Eternity is the reason why we got on Unique Leader, to be quite transparent. Other than also Devin from Worm Shepherd. Shout out to Devin from Worm Shepherd. He put us in contact with Jamie. They actually, after talking to Jamie, it turned out that they were interested in us, but they didn't know what we were doing. So they were actually, because we went dark for a while. We went dark for a while because it was, to be quite transparent. Again, I just said that Eternity was actually supposed to be our last album.
Really?
Yeah, it was a rough conversation. Me and Adam had. I kind of like feel the emotions right now, like talking about it, but it was quite honestly, I was tired. I was super tired of kind of just doing the work because I started A Wake In Providence in 2010.
Yeah.
And this was 2021 I'm talking about.
Oh shit.
So it was 11 years of like, it'll work,
Maybe,
and it just
yeah.
and getting there and then immediately dipping, and then getting there and then immediately falling. Some of that had to do with us, some of it didn't, some of it had to do with the people we were involved with, but whatever. Luckily we got involved with Devin. I was talking to Devin about some music, like me and him were trying to plan some collaboration a while back, but it just didn't work out.
That's so cool.
And then Adam and Devin got cool because of vocals, obviously, and then they started talking about potentially talking to Unique Leader, and then Devin put us in contact. I started talking to Jamie, and then he realized that we weren't done, or we weren't like kind of in whatever that limbo place we were in. Fast forward to, I sent him the version, like a pre-pro version of Eternity at the time. He was super into it. We got signed.
Damn.
And then it was like, all right, you guys, we need a single to announce the kind of the signing. So I was like, all right, I don't want to take anything from Eternity, because that album is which we'll get into, that Eternity is a story.
Yes.
And it's a very personal story. So because of that, I didn't want to break it up and put out a single separated from it earlier.
Right.
And then, fuck up the timeline or whatever. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll take the wild undertaking of writing another song. I'll just write a song or write a song that's unrelated to Eternity while I was still working on Eternity.
Right.
I was like, I'll take a break from it and I'll write just a brand new song. So I had a couple of ideas, and then God Killer kind of just happened.
Yes.
And it continued to happen, and it continued until the song was 7 minutes and 14 seconds longer, however long the song is. And then Unique Leader was super. Adam was trusting in me because as we've said, we don't live close, so it's tough for us to collaborate if we don't have time to. And he was at my house. Oh no, this was before we tracked Eternity. We were talking about getting together to record Eternity because we had to record that. But the timeline didn't really work out for him to come up and for us to then write God Killer. So he trusted me, and then I wrote God Killer and sent it to him, and then he tried to figure out time to get it recorded because the plan was to get God Killer out a little sooner. Then it just didn't. It just, again, in normal AWIP fashion, continued to not work until finally it was like, look, you're coming up to New Jersey anyway. Let's fucking we'll just record God Killer and Eternity at the same time. We came up, we just banged out God Killer. That was also the first time I like really went ham with writing an orchestra.
Oh, cool.
And it was like I fucking went crazy. I spent a butt ton of money on libraries and different things to try to get it to sound as good as possible.
Right.
Which I think it does. I think it does.
Pretty fucking mint, if you ask me.
Thank you. The internet also seems to agree, thankfully.
Yes. Oh my God, dude.
So that just kind of worked out, and then it was, which is the thing that makes me a little sad, is that God Killer came out before Eternity,
right?
Because it was written after. I finished Eternity, technically finished Eternity in early 2021, late 2020, I think, mid 2021. I can't really remember exactly, but the primary writing, I should say, like the official, like the actual songs, which is why, because some of the people on the internet who keep saying it, that's why it wasn't on the album. It didn't belong on the album.
Right.
It was written entirely after. It was not. It had nothing to do with that story. It was completely separated. And then Unique Leader trusted in us with it, and they were super stoked on the idea. We went and recorded the video. We did the whole thing. Recorded the single at my house, and then had it mixed by the guys who were mixing Eternity.
Yeah.
And then we put out God Killer, and then we fucking did way better than anything else we ever released up to that point, which was wild. And for us, it was a little surreal, because we were coming off of that conversation like 6 months before, the conversation of, this is going to be the end of the band probably. And then we put out God Killer, and it hit like 50K views in a week or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
It blew the fuck up.
It blew up
insanely, man. Yeah, dude. And for a 7+ minute song, it seemed like it wouldn't happen. We took a risk with that one. It was like, I think this song needs to be this long. It needed to be for the sake of the story that I was writing, and the pieces that it was, and it came out to work out exactly as it needed to. And I felt like it was a good connection to Eternity, because it's different enough that it feels like something else, but it's not different enough that Eternity now feels less than.
Right.
Because that was my fear when I finished the song. I felt like to me, it felt like it was better than Eternity, because it was new. It was something I haven't been listening to the last 3 years, and I was like, all right, here's something different. But I feel like it was just the same enough that it would stand on its own.
Yes,
but it would also not overshadow Eternity.
Exactly.
So that's kind of what that ended up being, and it was a last minute single of like, hey, we want to put something out, but I don't want to break up the album. So it was here's a quick banger,
just an appetizer, and
which I still to this day can't believe how well it did.
Yeah, dude, and I mean currently it's at 131,000 views. Like, dude, holy shit. And like I remember when this song first came out, and like, I was like, oh, like this is cool. This is legitimately haunting. Like, this has all of the rich, like, obviously you made your investments, as you said, and it fucking paid off. So I definitely want to add a comment by saying, like, what a strong comeback. And then, the announcement was made, Unique Later Records. I'm like, oh, they're totally unique. What an awesome thing. The label that I want to be a part of. Because I mean, Devin, man, fucking shout out to Devin Duarte, man. He's been my little brother now for like at least the last 2 years, because I helped them start the Facebook community for Warm Shepherd, like right before they joined Unique Leader Records. And then, Ritual Hymns is now top 10 for 2022 death metal records. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, so many great things are happening, but like, it's awesome to connect those dots. He's the guy that recommended you guys to Jamie Graham and Unique Leader. Like, holy fuck, Devin, I love you, buddy.
I'm pretty sure he has a shout out on the credits of Eternity. If you look at the booklet, I'm pretty sure his name is in there.
Yeah.
We owe a lot to that kid, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. We're eternally indebted to Devin.
Get it?
There you go. That's awesome, man. And this year's been great. What a fucking, that's something to cheer to. I wish I had some booze, but I don't. Anyways, Awesome. That's really cool to see, and that's really heartwarming to hear that, you know, he was kind of the reason that you guys ended up getting onto Unique Leader Records, and like, you know, the path has been paved pretty well with some fucking golden concrete, because now you guys are on your way. You're continuing to climb, and it doesn't seem like you guys are going to decline anytime soon. So I'm happy to know that you guys are back. Fucking, I could say the same thing the first day that the announcement was made. I'm like, oh, they're back. What is with all this makeup? What is with the armor? These guys are looking sick,
Yeah,
dude.
bro.
Like, holy shit, this is different. This is fresh. They're
Dude,
back, baby.
That was a decision, like a last minute, like, you know what we should do?
Yeah.
Let's fucking go for it.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. I'll never forget putting that shit together and sending it to the dudes. Like my girlfriend is the person I tell all of my wild ideas to before I tell my band.
Yeah.
And I remember pitching that to her, and she was like, I don't see it. I was like, I know, but trust me, it's good. And then I had the same conversation with the guys. Adam was with me from the start though, because me and Adam are right here. I was like, listen, just hear me out, okay? I got this crazy idea. It's gonna work with this wild story. It was the whole thing, but it was like, let's come back. I remember saying it, and Adam was with me. Jordan and Jesse were with us. I was like, let's come back with a fucking bang. Let's do something no one else is doing in the genre right now. Let's wear some let's go full behemoth. Fuck it. Let's wear armor and makeup, man, and shit, dude.
It works so well.
It looks great.
Not to put y'all under pressure or anything, but should we expect that for live performances and shit in the future?
We've talked about it. It's I will quickly say it's not fully off the table, but it's not definitely on the table.
Right. Right. No, that
makes
one of
those.
Sense.
It's one of those.
Yeah, it's the same thing as Devin, you know, wearing corpse paint for every single show on tour since Warm Shepherd really got started. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of rubbing off and just smearing, just like, all right.
Even just like it takes.
Yeah, the paint, like, it wasn't even really the worst. It, like, for me at least, because I'm in a full fuck, like, I'm fully geared up, bro. Like,
it takes two of us to put on Adam's to put on Adam stuff. It takes two of us,
right?
So, just for context, it takes two people to put on his stuff.
It's not like some Party City shit. It's like some real
leather.
It's real heavy. Fuck.
Yeah, all of the armor. It's all heavy. It's all leather armor.
Okay.
So it was, and because obviously because of Adam being the vocalist, I was like, I'm gonna fucking jack this dude out.
I was like, do it.
Me and Jordan. If you look at what we're wearing, me and Jordan are wearing the exact same thing. Yeah. Jesse's wearing something a little different, a little bit more drummer friendly, so that he can still play. And I was like, fuck it. I'm gonna have Adam ready for battle. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
I did not anticipate, because I did send I had sent everyone their individual outfits. I didn't anticipate how complicated it would be to put on. So I have the picture somewhere of Adam first sending me him in the armor. It's great because it's just loosely on him because I threw it on.
My mom helped me put that.
Shout out to mom, bro.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure, I can't remember which one of us it is, but getting out of the tunic, because there's a tunic that goes underneath it. It takes two of us to take the tunic off. It's a
process.
Jesse's arms were ripped because he literally broke them playing drums. It's not very playing friendly, which is why we probably won't do it.
Right.
But if we ever did, it would be a lesser version of it that's a little bit more live friendly.
Yes.
If we do it.
Meaning buy more merch, motherfuckers. No, I'm kidding.
Meaning get us on some crazy legit tours, and we'll probably do it. If the tour is worth it, we'll do it.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking, I can imagine an Eternity tour, like not even like mentioning Ignite the Church, which we just talked about, but like an Eternity tour with like Warm Shepherd and the Breathing Process or something. That would be a great start for you guys to come back and like do live shit. So yeah, in other words, in a joking matter, but also serious. Like, obviously, fucking merch is the best way to support the band. So people, be sure to go grab some fucking Eternity threads. Like,
Buy everything from that album.
Buy everything. I'm gonna be buying more shit as soon as I'm done paying off my 3 Shibori jumpsuits, paying off my my Mental Cruelty collector's edition box, my One Piece Vans. Like, I'm financing way too much shit, but it's also because gotta treat yourself.
Even exactly. My man's is thinking with his whole brain.
With my whole brain.
All right.
Also, I'm single, so I gotta accommodate. Anyways,
let's talk about Eternity.
Yes, let's talk about Eternity. So, as we dive into Under the Skin of Eternity, the latest record by A Wake In Providence through Unique Leader Records, such an amazing record. It's a story, and DeAndre has confirmed that for us on both, like, you know, personal level and narrative levels with this very, very, I don't even know, just romantic Renaissance style cover by the legend himself, Kalen Stokermans, as well as the logo, which fucking looks amazing. Such a great album. Definitely going to be adding it to my top 10. As we get started, as we truly descend under the skin and kind of, like, you know, peel open the skin, we start to see the tissue underneath the skin tissue. Whoever wishes to go ahead and just provide us a back of the book summary for what this album is supposed to be telling us, what the stories it's trying to tell us.
I can start, and then I know Adam will definitely have some stuff apart from some of the stuff I'm saying, and of course his own. The album is it's a very fantastic version of, like, just where I was at the time, where I was with my personal life and everything, dealing with anxiety for the first time, which before that I was a person who ignorantly said that you can control anxiety and it's all in your head. It's not. It definitely is. It was not as simple dealing with, and eventually working on it and getting it under control is much harder than it definitely seems like it is.
Yes.
Just, you know, the album had a very, very, very dark idea when it started, but I felt I needed to pull it back a little bit.
Yes.
Long story short, it was intended to be, and I don't know if I can say the S word here. It was intended to be a kind of like a story of depression, anxiety, and the things that come with that, and kind of like being alone, being kind of just in your head.
Yes.
Being, as Adam said, being your worst critic, but also being very, like, bad to yourself, and really just not allowing yourself to be happy, or allowing yourself to thrive, I guess, and grow.
Yes.
Maybe for whatever reason, you know. And for me, I have my reasons for feeling those feelings, which, you know, of course, those will stay with me. But that's essentially what it was based around. The album was really, really based around, again, the sensitive topic of the S word. I'm not going to say it because I'm not really sure how some of that stuff works in you know, recorded media. But
right, of course.
It was kind of like my dealings with that, and thoughts, and all that kind of stuff like that, and where that stuff comes into play. So much so, the an Odyssey Through the River, not to jump too quickly into the deconstruction, but an Odyssey Through the River actually started with a very, very dark idea, which I'll leave that, not putting that too out there. Yeah, it had a different, because I'm a huge fan of sound design and score and cinema sound and all that kind of stuff, which I don't know if that's obvious, but I've been kind of like, you go back to Insidious, for example, the very intro to Insidious, the song Doom that's just sound design that I just was in the studio working and adding apart, taking this crying and pitching it and doing this, that, and third, blah, blah, blah. So I was creating a visual through audio with the original version of An Odyssey Through the River, but it was too far for me to put out, at least. And there's also some reference to that in Weep Into the Abyss for It Hears You Not, which again we'll talk more about later, but
Of course.
that also has some more of that context as well. But it's still there, but I just pulled it back like really far.
Yes.
Because I didn't want it to be too out and in your face. So I kind of just pulled back some of that stuff. But that's essentially kind of like the concept of the album from a very like non-direct way.
Yes.
Because when you read the lyrics, I did my best at trying to tell that story through metaphor or imagery or something like that. So it's not so very clear. For example, like the Trinity, the Tribunal, the Wraith, the river, the field, like all of those are different concepts that I approached Adam with when it was like when I was writing the songs. I was naming them individually based on those concepts. So they were the original version of the album was intended to be titled "The Field," "The River," the Abyss, the City. Like they had different. Like each song was named after a different concept, a different conceptual part of the album,
Yes.
or a different part of the story. Which the short version of the story is the whole thing is meant to take place in your head.
Mm-hmm.
There's this kind of like there's a trinity called the Trinity,
Yes.
which is the Abyss, the horror, the terror, and the abyss.
Okay.
So if you listen through the album, you'll hear that come up a bunch of times. Obviously,
Yes.
the horror of the old gods,
Mhm.
Weep Into the Abyss, like all that stuff, like all the names and all that stuff continued to stay within the record.
Right.
Wraith, like all that stuff, and these are all just different words and names to refer to these different concepts of mental health or
Yes.
different concepts of transitional periods or liminal spaces, for example. So the river, for example, is the portal to the field.
Yes.
And those are just different ways to say when you die, for example, you go from one place to another place to another place. And then from there, I took the more darker concepts that I was talking about before,
Yes.
that were more personal, and then I assigned those different names and different words and stuff to those different pieces. I'm not going to go as far as to say create an allure or create something interesting to look at, but
Yes.
to be quite honest, it's just to kind of hide the
it's a for
As a metaphor, yeah.
for something deeper. Like it's almost like a good way to describe it is I used to how people cover up traumatic things with something else. And like, I used to work with this guy who legitimately believed he was Goku, and I was told the reason for that is like he had a lot of child abuse, and he used Dragon Ball Z to like escape it. So it was sort of like just miraging what was really going on, and that's sort of almost like what every song does. But
that's why they all had those original names.
Yeah, I also liked the river and the whole afterlife aspect to it because, like, in a lot of cultures and religions, it's almost like universally that there is some sort of river to guide you to the other, some sort of body of water that is involved with a crossing over. So it was it was very specific, but also very vague at the same time.
Yeah. That's why I feel like when you listen to the album, you'll hear a lot of reference to water.
Yes.
Both lyrically as well as sound design wise. Like the song, like the album starts with rain and it ends with oh no, it doesn't end with rain. Oh yes, it does. I don't remember. I think it does. There's some dripping happening. There's different references to water throughout the album.
Right.
There's some lyrical references to it as well, and then like there's a lot of we I already wanted to do it, and then Adam brought a different interpretation to it, which is one of the reasons why me and him work well together is I'll have whatever the primary idea or the primary vision is. I'll have things written out or whatever.
Yes.
Whatever, and then Adam will introduce a different concept that I haven't thought of.
Right.
Something that he knows from his research of different things or his particular interests.
Yes.
And then I'll do some more research on that particular thing and find ways that it works within whatever my original vision was. And then there you go. Now we have this completed idea.
Yes.
So like, obviously since we're talking about it, we can kind of jump into Odyssey.
Yes, sir.
Odyssey was originally called The River. And if memory serves me correctly, I could actually no. Odyssey always started with clean vocals, which I decided after TBS TBM that I have to commit to it. As what I was saying earlier, I have to commit to it because if I don't commit to it, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen the way I want it to, and it's going to be too much of a slow burn to get to it. Or
yes.
People aren't going to like. I was, who gives a shit, dude? At the end of the day,
my band, bro.
it's not honestly, dude. It's not even that. It really was. This album has a deep emotional connection. I have a deep emotional connection to this album.
Good.
And Adam does too. It was a lot of hours sitting in this room, or well, technically the other room before I moved studios, but there was a lot of hours sitting in these different rooms or at my old apartment, for example, of just like trying to figure these songs out and rewriting and figuring this out and figuring that out. And then finally just saying like, you know what? The best way, because I also do some screaming on the album too, but there's no other way to start this album to me with the particular concepts and the particular connection that we have to it, other than doing what I feel is one of the most emotional forms of art or portraying your art is singing.
Yes.
And to me it was the particular emotion that was there in the words that are in that part. It was a lot of like stuff that I've felt over the years and just kind of like the different parts of kind of just like, for lack of a better term, calling out like God, for example, and like not calling out God in the typical metal way of fuck God, blah, like not that shit, but literally like I feel that the thing, because not as heavily as Adam, but when I was younger, I was brought up in the Catholic Church. But as I got older and things kept happening to me, I feel more and more distant from this thing because I don't understand why this thing keeps allowing these things to happen.
Yes.
And then it started to change, and that's why you have like that there's a lyric that's in the beginning, which is God has forgotten my right, and it's like you as someone, coming up in the Catholic Church the way that I did, it was we keep going to church every Sunday, we keep doing communion, we do this offering, we do that offering, we do this, we do that, and a third, all this.
Like
so
why?
That this thing will forever smile down upon you, and this blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, but then why did my grandmother die out of nowhere for absolutely no reason, and no one can explain why?
Yeah.
It's like that, like to a kid, it's like that doesn't make any sense. You're telling me that it's a good thing that this happened, but there's no what's the good thing? I'm watching my mother fucking like just descend into sadness because of this. How can you tell me that this? So it's like different stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like this is that happened to me when I was in 2004. I was a kid, or I was a kid, but that's where a lot of this stuff comes from. So like, so when I say like this album is deeply connected, I mean that.
Yes.
And I've been saying it to my girlfriend's not in the metal world at all. She's getting into it now because of being in this relationship. And she even said that she's like, she's like, I see the risk you're taking with putting like actual clean singing.
Yes.
In the very beginning of a death metal record, but I in the booklet of eternity, I thanked 3 people specifically, and that was Adam, Jesse, and Jordan, because they trusted me with a lot of these crazy ideas. And one of those crazy ideas is putting clean sing, like legit ass clean singing and harmonies and all that kind of shit into a death metal record. But that's because honestly, dude, it made sense. It makes sense for it to be there. from a lyrical perspective, a conceptual perspective, an emotional perspective, it's supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you know, that's where that comes from as far as like the story, that storyline, because you know, that song specifically is supposed to be the beginning of the end. And that's where like the more fantastic part of the story, or the fantastical part of the story, kicks in, where the main character, or the prime, or that particular character is essentially, you know, that is their again, I'm just to kind of come out with it, is that's the point in the story where that person is supposed to be taking their life. You know, wow, I'm getting choked up talking about it. That's where that comes from, and that's why when the song kicks in the way that it does, and when Adam comes into it,
Yes,
it's that immediate switch, because it's meant to convey that sense of calm is not, it's not a happy calm. You know, it can end abruptly.
yes.
And that's what that was. It was like, I remember writing it, and originally it wasn't orchestra, it was originally guitar. And I wrote the idea, I sent it to Adam. I was like, dog, I need you to send me a vocal. I need you to send me a vocal, record it however you can. I just need you to say this one word, which is light. I was like, I just need you to say the word light. And send it to me. I worked on the part, and I cleaned up all the vocal ideas. I did all the stuff. And then I just had that just come in really strong, because I needed to hear if it was going to work.
Yes.
Because in my head, it sounded cool. It was like, all right, yeah, this is going to be dope. Really soft intro into this really mean, evil, heavy part.
Yeah.
But that was before the lyrics were written. And then once I started writing the lyrics, then it started to take shape. And then it became the emotional roller coaster that it became, you know?
Yes.
Because that song is essentially the overture, which is why it's called An Odyssey Through the River overture.
Right.
It is the start, and it's telling you the emotional context of the album.
Right.
You know, before we even get into it, you know, just like, this is what you're getting into. It's going to be heavy, yeah. It's going to be sad,
Yes.
but it's also going to have, you know, a bleak feeling. You know, I don't want it to be uplifting. I don't want it to be,
No.
you know, I don't want it to be evil. I wanted it to be this album. I wanted this album to feel. I wanted you to feel something. And that's yeah, exactly. It's like I said to Adam, well, you know, when we before any of the lyrics were written, before any of the concepts were there, just I think it was Horror of the Old Gods, and I think We Are Eternity were the first two songs written. And then when I started Odyssey, I remember saying to Adam, I was like, I need this album to feel melancholy and just heavy, but emotionally heavy.
It works so well, man. Like, it's unfortunate to say, but like, some of the best music just emerges from tragedy and just terrible times in your life. I know my first song, that's about some pretty shitty things that happened, very personal to me. And it's mixed with heavy and clean singing. So it's like the same way that you're explaining it, it allows for that emotion to be in there. And it just works so well, because in Odyssey Through the River, like, the first time I listened to it, I'm like, okay, so I'm literally just imagining the river Styx. And in Greek mythology, it's like, that's how you go into the afterlife. When Vikings die in real life, you know, they have that massive memorial. They're put in the boat, and someone shoots a flaming arrow, they set ablaze, and then they fade into the ocean. Almost the same exact way. And I don't even know. It's just a great way to start a record. 1, 2, reminds me of the Odyssey, as I've said before. And 3, especially when you're talking about taking your own life, because the royal S word, I agree with you that when it comes to that, it's like, it's almost like the calm that the album starts out with is just like, man, I'm so tired, I'm exhausted, I'm drained. And then just like, when it finally happens, it's like, that's the heaviness is a good depiction of your surrounding loved ones. They're like, fuck. And you know, and like, it gets intense. And like, then we get started on this journey of like getting into that mindset and just understanding what's going on. Or, as what I'm kind of getting the impression from on the album cover, I almost thought that this whole album was meant to be like Lucifer taking back control over heaven or something. And that, you know, that's a redemption cycle. Even though this terrible thing happened, you're like, enough. And then you're taking charge, you're putting the effort in. And unfortunately, with the idea of someone taking their own life, it's a little bit more melancholy. It's grieving. It's not like enough, do it. And then everybody else is like, enough. It's like enough. And then just silence.
Yeah.
Yet it's intense. So I didn't want to take that away from you.
No, you're good. Yeah, that
commentary.
Yeah, dude, you nailed it. You know, it's yeah, go, dude.
Oh no, I was gonna say, that's when it starts to get to that fantastical part of the album with Horror of the Old Gods,
right?
Which is I think it's like a really good segue into the rest of everything that happens thus far, like from there on, and it's honestly one of my favorite songs, and I know it's going to be fucking ass beater live, because it's just so upbeat and so fun.
Yeah,
that's what I remember describing it as. Like, this is a fun song. Like, this is gonna be really cool. Yeah, I can't wait to play that one live as well. But
yeah, it was. Sorry, good.
No, you're good.
Before we moved on, because you mentioned the artwork, I wanted to say with the artwork too, like that was this like kind of like off idea I had for a long time about using Baroque era like paintings as the reference for like a lot of just like these really like dark old like pieces of art that I've always been a fan of, and just different painters and stuff from like the 1800s and 1700s and stuff like that. So I sent like a bunch of this stuff to Kalen, and I told him, I was like, look, this is what I want. This is what I want to see. I need to see a one character struggling against another one, being surrounded by other people that are not necessarily oblivious to what's happening, but they don't fully understand what's happening. They don't understand that they are part of it. They are a part of it, but they don't see how. That's why when you look at the artwork, there's no real, it's not a fight. There's no like, fucking sword and this guy's cutting down this other guy, or there's not fire engulfing everybody, or all the, the typical stuff that would kind of tell you very obviously, hey, this is about the devil doing X. There is, when you look at the artwork, at the bottom of the artwork, there is like that orange hue of almost like there is fire almost. But again, I didn't want it to go as far as to be like all of these people in hell, which is why they're flying, which is also why it's in a sky.
Yes.
And then the other piece of it being the one character is holding on to the other character by just that cloth.
Yes.
He's not holding him personally, which that's a reference to Terror, or Siamo Legati del Terrore.
Okay.
Or we are bound by terror.
We are bound by terror, right?
Yeah, we'll get to that too. But the artwork is, the different pieces of the artwork are referring to different parts of the album, or different concepts within the album. And that was just like, I need to be able to, because that's how I work, and Adam can explain this as well, because I tell him, me and him we were on the phone 2 days ago, dude. Like, and I was just talking to him about some of the new stuff, and I work from images in my head. Like, I see an idea, or I think of a word or a title or something, and that's what I work to. I'll write a song, or I'll write the lyrics, or I'll write a vocal part or whatever to that. Yes. So when it came time to work on the album, me and Caitlin were just back and forth constantly. They'll send me a reference, like a quick draw. I'm like, all right, let's work on this idea. Or they'll send me something else. All right, cool, that's dope. Like a lot of that, because this is what I see in my head when I think of the album. But yeah, moving back to the album itself, horror. That's like Adam said, that was actually, that song was written around the TBS TBM era, which is why it kind of feels like that album a little bit. That song was written around that time. It was like, I really wanted, like Adam said, I wanted to just write an ass beater.
Yeah.
I just wanted to write an ass beater. And that song also had a clean chorus on it. didn't fucking work. I just
Mhm.
kept trying to make it work. But once I realized that I kept trying to make it work, that's when I was like, all right, I got to scrap that idea. And when we came up with that play the horror of the old gods, like
Yeah.
that kind of like that vibe.
So
That
fun, man.
that shit was just like,
Ugh.
it's super catchy. It fits with the groove. It has that really like upbeat feel to it.
Yes.
It's still a chorus, but
Mhm.
it hits you in the face constantly. And fun small fact to it, since that wasn't originally the idea, and also Adam lives in Florida, it was like we were still going through the mix phase, and like I was still doing some editing and
Yeah.
like sending it to the guys who was mixing it. And I hit up Adam randomly, like the middle of the night. I was like, yo, dude, I was like, is it possible within the next like 2 days, can you record 2 vocals? I just need 2 words. I was like, I just need you to do 2 words because I'm trying to make this chorus work. I need to make
Right.
this chorus work because the version that we had that we were listening to with cleans didn't work. So I
Right.
have an idea, but I need 2 words and I can do it. But if not, I get it. I can make it. But unfortunately, it was too late. The timing was not. It was not enough time. So I did some studio magic and I made it
Mhm.
work. And that chorus ended up working out the way that it did. And then and then obviously like over time, also that the whole ending breakdown was originally just filled with guitars and like ambient
Mm.
guitars. But then once I started doing all the orchestral stuff in God Killer and
Yes.
seeing how well it worked while I was writing it, I was like, you know what? I'll go through. I'll clean up some of the because it had orchestral elements in it, but it wasn't really that heavy yet.
No. No.
Because but then once I did God Killer, I committed to it more than I did in Eternity. So that whole ending just became that
Yeah.
just like apocalyptic monster that it is. And then Adam just fucking went ultra ham sandwich on it.
Yeah. Fucking
And then
Arby's level, bro.
one of my favorite parts of that whole entire breakdown, Adam, I love your vocals. You're a phenomenal vocalist. My favorite part of that breakdown is the whisper. I think that's the heaviest
Yes.
part of that breakdown.
Yeah. Oh my God.
The heaviest
Oh.
part of the breakdown.
Whisper, motherfucker.
What'd you say?
I said I'm still the one who did the whisper, though.
I know. Technically speaking, we both did it. There's a secret. There's a secret one that's in there. There's like a little. There's a reverb version of it that's in it. I did it. I just threw it in there. I was like, I need like an extra tone to this little tail. So it's in there. It's real
so
slight.
well,
it's real
man.
slight.
All right.
But
all right.
it's definitely you. There's no question.
No, it's such a fun track. And like, I think speaking for A Wake In Providence currently, that is definitely the song that people are like, hey, do you know that song that goes, oh gods, and like, oh yeah, A Wake In Providence, for the old gods. So, like, yeah, that's the one. Like, that's the song for you guys right now. I think.
Yeah.
Just that song that you think of, and you're like, what is that song? You know, obviously I just said that, but such a fun song. And like, I think that happens to be the spookiest song on the record, but that's also what makes it so fun. Yeah. Because I don't know, maybe this is headcanon, but I remember the wee like in the background of that song, and I'm like, oh, because I'm like a big fan of spooky music. Like that's my whole fucking lifestyle right now. You can actually see the webs a little bit.
Cobwebs, yeah.
Yeah, freaking they're supposed to be glow in the dark too. Damn them, they weren't. But I love spooky shit. So when I heard that, and I think I remember hearing like some type of weird spooky, like corny spooky synth in the background. Maybe I'm remembering that incorrectly, but if not, it would work pretty well for that. And maybe that's the fucking headcanon is I'm like, this would go really well with spooky synths. But good God, man. I remember that when that song first came out, and like I remember the editing process for the reaction for that song, and I'm like, this is a fucking bop, bro. Like, I don't mind taking 3 hours to edit this or however long I took, because I edit the videos while I work. But so obviously we all here in session love the song. Let's go ahead and dig a little bit under the lyrical process and like the end product of what you ended up entailing for this compared to the rest of the record per se.
Horror, it was that's kind of like the let's at least start to talk about the concepts. I didn't want to go too deep into anything yet. Like we came, we already kind of like slapped you with this very like intricate concept in Odyssey between the cleans and the screaming vocal parts. And like when you like look at the lyrics for those two sections, like they're dramatically different, but they have a very, very similar concept as far as what they're dealing with. And then in horror, it was, let me start to introduce these things to you. You know, like let's start talking about this stuff. So the old gods, for example, the Trinity, the Tribunal, the field, the river, all that kind of stuff. Let's just start, planting the seed. So to be quite transparent, that song, yes, it does fit the story. Yes, it's a part of the story. Yes, it has a lot to do with it. But that was more for the song than it was anything else.
Yes.
Because it was like, this song is just heavy. It's just pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just be pissed off and heavy, and the lyrical content fits with that. Actually, I should pull the lyrics up while we're talking because it would make it even easier to remember them. But that song definitely has, the intro, for example, we're made to conceive and spin the lore. Like that's the first lyric in the song, and that is essentially just to say like, hey, bruh, you don't know what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Like,
let me guide you though.
Yeah, we'll get there, but because the other thing that I wanted to do with this, like from a lyrical perspective, was to kind of play with perspective a lot. Yes. Not to say perspective a bunch of times in a row, but play with perspective. So like this song and We Are Eternity are from the perspective of the Trinity.
Okay.
Whereas Odyssey is from I'm going to say my perspective and Adam's perspective, yes. Which plot twist is the same perspective. But again, we'll get there. Yes. Where Horror of the Old Gods, it was from the perspective of the Trinity and like kind of like starting to plant those seeds of like, hey, this is what we're dealing with. This is what we're talking about. Because when we get to I'm looking at the lyrics and I have like in parentheses good chorus because I deleted the bad chorus and I just put in good chorus, which hopefully it didn't end up on the album that way, but who knows.
Also, fun fact, the most streamed song on Spotify with 111,899 streams.
Horror?
Yeah, Horror. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, man. I look at the Spotify like artist thing every now and then, and those numbers kind of scare me.
Oh yeah.
I can only imagine what it is for other bands, but so yeah, at the in that big breakdown, there's the lyrics. So we spread the plague. This ritual will break in, cracking your cerebellum through the anxiety, from the anxiety.
Right.
Because that's like I said, like that's the thing. I'm starting to now tell you like these things are names for other things.
Yes.
So it's like the old gods is just your former way of thinking, your former psyche, and what you thought you were, or who you thought you were, and that's the horror of the old gods is just being like where you thought your mind is and how you think of yourself then with your new kind of way of thinking, which is
the
not
realization
really that good,
Yeah,
it's just like oh my God, I was so happy, I was so positive, blah blah blah, yeah. And now I'm this, you know what I mean? Like now I am my anxiety,
Right.
And then directly after it, I'm looking at it, it's like crippling everything, it's just like no matter whatever, like again, that weight and realizing that weight of what that anxiety means to you, and I feel like that's something that as personal as the album is to us, that's something that we've all dealt with. You know what I mean? Like you look at the metal community, we all deal with stuff, and that's one of the things that brings us closer to this community or brings us closer to the music is that we all deal with something. Yeah. And this is a different outlet for that. Some of us create that music and that's our outlet, and some of us consume that music, which a lot of us do both, but we consume that and that's our outlet,
Yes.
So like something like that, for example, like it's the lyric is crippling everything you lock deep down inside your memory. You know, like that's what that song is about. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's starting that process, and it's a heavy song, and we're like, this is gonna be a heavy concept.
Right. Exactly. And dude, anxiety has definitely been my main antagonist per se. So definitely something I can relate to, just crippling panic attacks and shit. Even recently with all my success and all of my at least compared to before, all of my efforts coming into fruition, every now and then just like it literally crumbles you down. It's like, what's going on? Why is this happening? It's like, doesn't matter why it's happening. You have anxiety, motherfucker. How are you gonna deal with it? And it's just, it sucks. But you know, as long as you're surrounded by good people and you have like the right mindset and you're doing as well as you can for yourself, that's kind of like how I operate. Like I could easily be on certain medications and stuff, but instead I'm like, one day my efforts will pay off and I will feel more confident about myself, or you know, anything like that. And therefore, speaking more specifically about Horror of the Old Gods, when I first listened to this and now I'm getting, you know, more insight upon the song, it's almost like, religiously speaking, most religions are headcanon. So it's like you might as well kill off the old gods that are your former ideologies, maybe your naivety, as some people would like to call it, because they're like, "Huh, you're just naive. You don't know how painful life can get." It's like, well, no, I absorb that pain. I absorb that misery. For example, my project, Blind Without Our Failures, the name itself is just like, we are blind without our failures, right? So it's like, without those failures, without those tropes, without you stumbling and just actually eating a pile of mud, you don't really know what pain is. You don't really know what misery or any of that is. But once you do, it's up to you to decide whether or not, you know, you make that next step and just continue going on with that knowledge in your head. Therefore, then you are blind. You continue to be blind if you wish to, but at least now it's without your failures. And with Horror of the Old Gods, it's like you might as well try to do your best to kill off the old gods that happen to be your former ideology. And like, what now? That's the most like crippling question I ask myself every now and then, is just what now? So it's like, what then are you doing despite the horror of the old gods? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I really like, see, like that. This is the type of thing that I find very interesting, because it's like as someone who I spent all my time in this room and writing and this and that there, I don't really get to hear other people's interpretations of the songs, and that's my first time hearing an interpretation of this song, and that's, you know, it always interests me, because I know where my head was when I wrote this stuff, or I know where our head was when we were in here working on the lyrics or working on the ideas or working on the parts. And then like knowing what both Adam and I said we were not going to do, and then hearing what people kind of like think about the songs, and then like it's a comment thread on one of the videos, and they're like going in on what it actually means and what we're saying and this and that there, and I'm like, you guys couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Way off base.
Way off. Yeah, fair enough.
Adam, what do you got to say about horror?
I just really like the concept of like paganism, whether it be like heathenism or, you know, what counter polytheistic
polytheism. That's what you're trying to get to. There you
go. I just think it's really cool. Like there's a lot of like subtle hints at like Norse mythology and like the Norse religion known as heathenism.
That would be Ossature, by the way. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you, but the term would be Ossature. That's a Norse paganism. That's actually what I participate in myself.
Yeah, I mean, I would. There's different sects.
Yeah, definitely.
But
yes,
I love whenever anything Norse comes up. It's my favorite thing to see how Adam responds. I love it.
I wouldn't identify with that just because that specific name, I'm not speaking on any of the people you know, but that specific section of heathenism has had like a lot of slander. with
All right,
it.
I'll keep that in mind.
I'm not saying you're like a part of that or anything. I'm just saying
It's your reasons for
I'm
your
very
reasons for separating yourself.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's my own reason.
Right. Absolutely.
But yeah, there's a lot of inspiration in there.
Sick.
Yeah. But yeah, I just really like anything like that. It's really cool.
I noticed too the runes that you got done.
Yeah.
in some of the recent music videos.
Elder
I love to see that.
And some younger Futhark, and then I have Hugin and Moonin on the sides, and then you can't see it because my head isn't shaved, but in between where their wings meet, I have Vegvis here, like right on the back of my head.
Yo.
Yeah, there's like these.
Don't you have Idrisil on your neck right here too?
Oh yeah, Idrisil, and then underneath it, you can't see it unless I shave. It's just like a cool little Trinity knot underneath my chin. But yeah,
anytime I got Norse questions or Norse theory ideas that I want to try to incorporate, I'm like, Adam, how does this does this work? Like, can I use this particular idea?
Yeah. Sometimes,
Adam's my Norse guy.
Respect, man. That's cool. I didn't know that about you. We gotta have plenty more conversations now.
I know I like wear it, but most people just don't know. So it's very easy to not get into conversation about it with people because they're like, "Oh, what is that?" And you're like, "Oh, it's Elder Futhark runes," and they're like, "Okay,
nice."
Yeah. But like when you do meet someone who does know what they're talking about and can associate with you, then it's like, I don't know if I want to get too deep into this right now.
But, nerd out.
Yeah,
dude, definitely a conversation for another time. We got to talk about that shit, man.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think we both were able to just really incorporate influences and interests and things we just really identified with, whether it be like religious or mythically or lore from our favorite franchise of something, or we just really wanted to build this world, but not a specific thing.
Yeah, we didn't, and this is kind of we kind of unintentionally started talking about the album again as a whole. We'll jump to We Are Eternity after, but we really didn't want to. Of course, we did this after we put out God Killer, but we didn't want to make another run-of-the-mill death metal or deathcore record of, fuck God, we're gonna do this, we're gonna fucking cut God's head off and all this stuff. Even though we literally did that in the other song, but it's like we wanted to write an album that I'll rephrase that. I wanted to write an album that meant something, and it meant more than the typical, stuff that you're going to write an album about, or I wanted to write an album about something that people do write albums about, but I didn't want it to end happy. I didn't want it to be something fun and positive. Like when you get to the end of the album, it's actually the end of the album is a sad part of the album. It's nothing positive happened, and that's why, also why the album's called Eternity. It's like, these decisions are eternal. These decisions don't change.
Right.
They will be that decision, whatever it is, will be what it is forever.
Right.
And that doesn't have to be as heavy as the S word. It doesn't have to be that heavy. It could be as simple as anything else, really. It's whatever you attach to it, of course.
Yes.
Whatever your interpretation of it, whatever your interpretation of it, of course. And that's why, looking at the lyrics, there's some stuff in there that was written just because it sounded cool. Like there's a section in I think it's in Eldritch, which we'll get to. It's one of my favorite things that I've ever put on paper. Because it was like this simple idea, and I was like, this is what we're talking about. Let's use that, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. But We Are Eternity is on the docket. Looking at the lyrics. Okay.
The introduction to our characters, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it other than Odyssey, this one is the introduction of the connection of the Trinity as well as our characters,
Okay.
and kind of showing. It's not until Wraith that really stuff. I'm sorry, not Wraith. Terror stuff starts to really come about. But We Are Eternity was the second song written for the album, and that one is also still kind of has some semblance of TBS attached to it. It's a little further removed from TBS TBM, but
Okay.
it still has a touch of it because it was still written kind of not too long after horror.
Okay.
But From a musical perspective. But from a lyrical perspective, it was this idea that me and Adam had. It's a very simple idea of like, how can we just wanted to start a song that started with vocals, and that the lyric of "Incite the ritual to sever the flesh," that lyric changed a bunch of times, but we landed on that because it really helps kind of continue that concept and that idea, which we come to later as well, because you'll start to learn that this album, like the MCU, is very, very interconnected. A lot of saying one thing over here that doesn't mean anything yet until you get over here. Then that
I like
means
that.
everything is like, oh, this now makes sense because this thing, yeah, it's a lot of that stuff. I like that form of storytelling.
I do too.
Where you kind of start in one place and then you get somewhere else and you're not fully there. You're like, what? And then once you get to another spot, all of those pieces,
all of it connects, all of it makes sense, all of it just
exactly
combines. Yeah, I love that.
But yeah, it's like that's when this song is when kind of like a lot of the concepts really start to take hold.
Okay.
For example, you have the one of my favorite lyrics in the song being I'll cradle your thoughts through this trying time. Because what the story is now telling you, or what the story that are trying to convey, is there's these two opposing forces, and you have Adam's character and my character, which realistically speaking are the same character. They're the same thing. They're just different parts of the psyche.
Okay.
So Adam is really playing the darker part of the psyche, but not yet, and you don't understand that yet. That's why when you start the song with "I'll cradle your thoughts through this trying time," it's like, I'll protect you. I will protect you. Not really. It's like, I'm gonna let you. It's a false sense of security. That's really what it is.
Yeah, and it could be like, you could interpret that as intrusive thought too, if you're talking about like anxiety and just like human mentality, like intrusive thoughts. Like, yeah, I'm here to protect you, but realize that, we're gonna fucking die someday. That type of shit.
Yeah, exactly. It's the deeper into this, the deeper into the album you get, you start realizing how much of it is really, really based in a lot of very concrete and very grounded concepts and ideas. I just used all these, grandiose ways to explain it.
Yes.
Like as the crown bears judgment upon your lives. Like that stuff. Like that. That's talking about very simple concepts of, you're the crown, because the crown is the Trinity.
Yes.
Like, again, all that stuff is connected, different ways to mask these different things, which at the end of the day they all turn out to be the same thing. It's, you tell yourself these things all the time, like, it's like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm good.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I'm good. But you're lying. You're not. You're not okay. You need help. You need to say to someone like, "Hey, I need help." But not everyone can do that.
Yes.
That's why you have that. Lyrics like that throughout the record of like talking about the psyche, talking about I'll like different ways of, I'm here for you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Again, we keep coming back to that a very simple way of explaining it, of you're your own worst critic, right? For example, just using that. Even something as simple as that, like I'll write a riff and I'm like, this riff is fucking sick, and I'll go get a drink of water. I'll come back, I'm like, this riff is garbage, and then it's just like, what happened, But it's that concept of like, you're there for yourself until you're not, you know what I mean? And a lot of people, unfortunately, are not there for themselves, and then you may go through a time where you're not, but then eventually you are, like all that kind of stupid stuff.
Yeah.
But like the chorus, for example, like as I walk this field into the fear, oh, the abyss becomes real. At my feet lay despair, breathing clouded air. What's the end of it? Soon the rot becomes all I feel. And that's another thing, talking about using the rot. That was the other concept that I forgot, or motif, I should say. Like The
Right.
rot is the kind of the lyrical explanation of the end.
Yes.
It's like your mind is gone. You know,
I love the way that you
you're
sung that too.
oh, thank you.
Mhm.
That was a chorus that I was very unhappy with, for example, as we were talking about, until I sent it to Adam, and Adam was like, "This is quite possibly the greatest chorus you've ever written."
Mhm.
Like, oh, my heart, thank you. But yeah, it's a lot of that, right? It's a lot of kind of just like this song is really helping from a grandiose like lore perspective. It's helping tell the story of all of these characters and all of these concepts while very plainly telling you that none of it's real. You know, when we
Mhm.
get to the breakdown, the big breakdown, which has the title track line in it, it says "We are eternity." Like Adam fucking
Yeah.
delivers the fuck out of that line. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm for myself, Adam. He can speak to that. Speak to this concept. That lyric for some reason it didn't hit me until after the album came out. And
Mm.
then when the album came out and it was time to no, I'm sorry, not before the album. Before the album came out, we were working on the music video. We were working on the music video, and we got to that lyric, and then seeing it, and now instead of hearing it, now seeing that lyric and seeing Adam's delivery of it and his physical delivery of that lyric,
Yes.
I was like, fuck, okay. Now that lyric is way more important.
Yes.
Because as I was going through and coming up with the track list, and I landed on "We Are Eternity." The song
Yeah.
was originally called "Eternity," but we say "We Are Eternity" in the song. I feel that this album is a very good representation of who we are, and the lyrical concepts for myself, and I'll let Adam speak to this. I feel that that's who I am. You know, what I mean, like the lyrical content of the album. So when we got to that lyric of "We Are Eternity," it was like very clearly stating in the song from a lore perspective, hey, we, me and you, are eternity.
Right.
Yeah, and
Okay.
because it's again, those are those concepts of there are two people in the story, which realistically is one person. So
Mhm.
it's like that's flat out saying it. We are eternity. And
Right.
it's just like it does.
No,
It still
I
doesn't
love
make
it.
sense yet.
Yeah. And
Adam,
for
if you will.
yeah, there you go.
Oh, I this is like "We Are Eternity" was like one of my favorite songs, even from like the concepts of it, because the breakdowns in it are just so awesome.
Yeah.
And I really liked that there's that big chunk in the second breakdown in that song where you just get to show like just sort of my vocal prowess, and also just with like really good delivery.
Yeah.
That breakdown is probably like one of the most like intricate but like passionate and angry breakdowns
Yes.
that I had the pleasure of recording. Like between like the main lines of it are low gutturals, but
Mhm.
like background you have like these nagging, really like fierce mids
Yes.
backing up what the original lyrics are with like no gods, no masters.
Yeah.
It's almost like someone's making a speech and he has like a whole army behind him that knows what to say.
Yeah. Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's like
really, really.
I'm scrolling to the part because I'm trying to remember the lyric before it. The handing out sentences from a seat at the high table, acting as counsel at the behest of God, and then the no that kicks in directly
Yeah.
after it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, it just it just feels like, because the other part about that, which is which I feel is what makes that breakdown so heavy, is the silence. There isn't a lot of until the second half of the breakdown. There's not a lot of instruments in the beginning of that breakdown. It gives you that triplet hit, and then all the stuff drops out and is just Adam.
Right.
Like it's Adam, and I think like a string noise in the background.
Yeah. Oh, it's so great. And I think too, like as we're getting more familiar with this record lyrically, and you guys are telling the story of it, this album with the two halves of the psyche, the two halves of one person, reminds me hella of Whitechapel's Kin, because that record, like literally that the reason the album cover looks how it is because it's Phil Bozeman battling with his intrusive negative self. And through all that he has been, which is depicted on the Valley and Kin, he's like, I mean, we could easily kill ourselves and just be with our parents, but we have a life to live. We have a legacy to forge. And like that's one of the reasons I love that album so much is like it's him, the most personal that you can get, battling with yourself and getting through this rough patch in your life. So I thought I should let you guys know that in that form, Eternity and Whitechapel's Kin actually connects a lot. But they're drastically different musical elements to Eternity. But yeah, absolutely, like such a great journey that we're going on so far with the lyrics.
And then the last thing I wanted to touch on, or at least the what I think would be the last thing I personally want to touch on with We Are Eternity is like the more black metal section in the middle of the song before the breakdown we're talking about, where me and Adam kind of Adam and I we were obviously there's this dude is a wealth of lyrical not lyrical I'm sorry I guess you could say vocal ability.
Yes.
So when we're in here, I have headphones on. He's either standing right next to me, sitting right next to me, behind a bunch of blankets, whatever. He's in the room, and we can only hear each other. So in that situation, it was a conversation that me and him had, and it birthed one of my favorite things that we've ever recorded, which was what we dubbed the witchy highs.
Okay.
Which was, all right, everyone's doing the tunnel highs. That's what we're all doing. Okay, whatever. Yeah, cool. We could do all the low stuff. Adam could do the lowest shit on the planet. Dope. That's great.
Yeah.
It was, what can we do that will give a voice to a part, right? Like, what can we do to give a voice to a lyrical part? And the lyric of I try to remember it. For I am the personification of torment and time.
Yes.
Like that. Like I was like, because like doing that as a regular high, yeah, it sounded cool. Of course it did. We did it as a low underneath. Yeah, it sounded dope. But it was like it's missing character.
Yes.
It's missing something. It's like because we did the whole part because the part for I am the personification of torment and time, roaming the lands, tending the rotten, and then there's a background that screams forgotten. Doom foretold, of which you don't know, kept in the searing dark of black silk veiled eyes, set forth by the abyssal tribunal. It's like all of that stuff sounds cool if you do it as a high. Of course it does.
Yes.
But it was like we need to do something different. We got to do something else. So we just like Adam can explain it more than I can, of course, from what he's doing. All I can say is the particular tone, and that's something that comes up throughout the album every now and then. We didn't want to overuse it, but we use it to what I feel was enough on the album. Of course, we could have used it more because I personally love it, but for it to not become, and this is something that you'll see as a trend with us, just the different ideas and concepts that we go with. We don't want to beat something into the ground. We don't want to fucking do every single vocal style all the goddamn time, all fucking always and forever. It's like let's instead of doing a regular high or tunnel high or whatever, let's find something else. It doesn't have to be groundbreaking. It doesn't have to be something. We're not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
We just want, or I should say, I want our music and our vocals to be one piece. So when you listen to the band, you listen to a part, it's, obviously that's Adam Mercer, but you're like, wait a minute, is this A Wake In Providence? You know what I mean? Like, that's what I've always looked to do. That's why I'm like, anytime when you listen to our music, there's no, like, Adam, we all know Adam's a fucking beast. We get it.
Yes.
We know that. we are doing we are doing something that a lot of people are already doing. Again, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but I want us to be a one unit. I've always looked at it as we are A Wake In Providence. It's just this is what it is. This is the piece. Here's the music, and there's everything. And it's not the music with the vocals sitting up here. You know what I mean? It's not here's the music with a bunch of different vocal, like this could be 12 different vocalists and you'd have no idea.
Yes.
No, it's, yeah, we'll do that. We'll do it when we feel it's necessary to do it. But at the end of the day, the vocals are slotted right into the song. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They're one picture. So it's like, how can we mix, a vocal style mixed with all these kind of like grandiose ideas or these really fucking descriptive and dare I say evil sounding lyrics, you know what I mean? Like with that part, like for I am the personification of torment and time. That's you saying, like, or not you, but that's me, that's us explaining this part of your brain has been there forever.
Yes.
And it is your literal creation of your torment and the time that you've spent with it. I'm almost spoon feeding it to you and then I'm throwing it out.
Right, exactly. And it works. And I think it works really well.
And then using something that Adam was like, yo, let's fucking try this sound and let's go for it. Here's something I'm working on. Here's something I've been workshopping. I'm like, hell yeah, let's try it. We do it and we keep refining it because I think we recorded that originally a while back. We sat on the pre-program vocal for a long time, and then when he came back to my house to re-record some stuff or finish the album, it was like there were certain things we needed to hit again and some things that we couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's some takes on the album that were from the original pre-pro version because we caught the magic of that vocal take. And it was like, that's just what it is now,
Yes.
But this is one of those ones that Adam, I'm sure, he knows better than I do.
The Witchy High was like, there's just like the classic, like, I feel like most people would say a good deathcore high, like you might like them raspy and not as high, or you like just really, a reasonable level of high, maybe not screeching, but like Rings of Saturn,
right,
or original Chelsea Grin. Yeah, just like the really pointy. Yeah. But I wanted to take what I already could do and instead of pointing it up, just point it out.
Yeah,
so
direct.
Yeah.
And then and that was like the birth of that. But it really was like just from pointing it outward and just trying to do something different. Yeah,
you got it, man. You got to add to the pot, otherwise people aren't gonna look your way, unfortunately. I mean, fucking sure as hell, just like DeAndre doing the cleans for TBS and most of this record, really. That's what stands out to me when it comes to A Wake In Providence. Is like, this is the first band in blackened deathcore to make cleans work. And I love that. But obviously also the Witchy Highs and shit, which we're talking about, absolutely iconic, and plenty of vocalists right now that I'm comparing to your spectrum of vocals, Adam. And I'm just like, yeah, this dude sounds a lot like Adam, but I like that. I'm familiar with that spectrum. That's what I'm calling a lot of them, because it's like so many people do so many different techniques, and they happen to tweak them a little bit, and it's like, oh, so this like that could easily be a Dan Watson, or that could be a Phil Bozeman, all that type of shit. It just like it all gets so specific now because it's 2022 and there are hundreds of us.
But yeah, man. But yeah, I think you mentioning the cleans on the record is a good transition into the cleanest song on the record.
There we go.
we are Bound by Terror. This is, I think as a collective, this may be our favorite song on the record. It definitely is I would say for, I want to say it's for obvious reason. It's the song that's probably the most emotional one. But this was the track that, like, I don't know if you follow Jesse on social media, on social media, but he pointed out stuff about this song and kind of where he was when he recorded the track. Which, man, we haven't talked about Jesse and Jordan enough, but Jesse I got to shout that kid out, Hard Body, because he was able to take the insanity that comes out of my head and play it. Because it was when I was writing these drums and I was writing this record, he was not in mind yet. And then it was like, oh, now he is. It's like, all right, cool. Hopefully you can do this, dude, because this shit's gonna be fucked up. And when we were recording the album, we started off recording it with I want to say we did horror first because it was easy. But then we immediately went to Court of the Trinity, which is the worst song on the album in the sense of playability.
Oh, right.
That is a technical death metal. It's a tech death, just 7-minute beast.
Right.
And I'll never forget, I very rarely feel bad for like musical stuff. I felt horrible. Felt horrible while Jesse was recording that song, dude. It was, I'm sitting there like, dude, why did I do this? Like, it's like, but whatever. We'll get to that later. But
we'll get to that.
He recorded that song, and then we recorded this, and it was he says this is his favorite song to play on drums. It's the most fun song to play on drums, but it's also still an extremely complicated song. And this was the one that kind of like he got that reinvigoration of, yeah, this is gonna be good after we I put him through the gauntlet for almost like 4 days of one song. And then he was like, and I immediately regret my decision because this is also still hard. But even through that kid fucking ripped and got through this song. And this was the one I was very interested to see live because, yeah, I sit here, I write these songs, I hear the same parts over and over and over again, whatever. But actually seeing someone play the song, it changes the perspective. It changes the way that a lot of this stuff feels. And then that kind of goes into the music video, and we each have, and in this case, I'll say me and Adam, because I obviously I can't speak for Jesse and Jordan, but Adam and I both have, like had different experiences with this song when we were filming the video that we just put out. When we got to my parts in the video, the whole time I'm running around, I'm saying, okay, this is what you're going to be doing, or I'm working with the guy, the dude who did the video, Toddy. Shout out to Toddy for our last 3 videos, right? 3 or 4, 3 videos.
3, yeah, I think 3.
Right, Eternity, or 3, right?
God,
yeah,
including God Killer, that could be 4. I don't know if he did God Killer though.
Nah, he didn't do God Killer.
Oh, okay.
So then it would be 3, yeah.
Yeah, yes, sir.
So shout out to Toddy for those, of course. But I'm like running around, I'm like looking at the shot list. I'm telling him what the next thing is we're doing. I'm doing this, that, and third. And then finally it's like, okay, we got everybody else. Now it's time to do your shots. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. I've been fine this whole time. I go to start, doing my parts or whatever like that. And then when certain parts of the song kicked in, dude, I like that welling up feeling happened.
Yeah.
And it was like, holy shit, this is like this is the closest, because before this, because keep in mind, we haven't played any of these songs live yet.
Yes.
We actually haven't played any of these songs together yet. We've been doing the pieces separately.
Bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, and we recorded the guitars. Jordan was here. I recorded my guitars. He recorded his guitars. I re-recorded my guitars. He re-recorded some of his guitars. I re-recorded it was a lot of that stuff. But that was the closest we came to playing it together. And then when Jesse was tracking the drums, I'm sitting there. I don't have a guitar, but he's tracking the drums. Adam was sitting next to me tracking vocals, and like we're doing these in all different places and different pieces, and we were never together while tracking the album, other than different people being with me to do stuff. But this song, it just I can't explain it. I can't really give you too much about why. Something about this song, man, every time it's like a punch in the chest. And it's not even like a painful punch in the chest. It's one of those just punches. It's just, it hits, I won't even say it hits me just as soon as that like intro, just dark, gritty guitar part comes in. It's something about that expansive reverb
Yes.
on this one guitar part before the vocals kick in that just creates that like distance. You know what I mean? It creates that
Yeah.
cold distance. And then this is, now speaking about it from a lyrical perspective, this is the first time in the, I think if memory serves me correctly, the first time in the album where you start to see from a lyrical perspective that Adam's character is in fact not there to help you.
Right. Okay.
Because the first lyric, the line in the song is, "Here I lay, bound to the hunt, stalking my oblivious prey."
Okay.
And then it's bound by the river, I think it is. Oh, claimed by the river.
Claimed by the river. Okay.
So again, you know, those constant connections and stuff.
Yes.
But the interesting thing about this song is that we each, and Adam and I both, have separate reasons why this song really does hit us.
Mhm.
And and the lyrics mean different things to both of us, and I find that to be, you know, quite interesting, because it's something that, you know, no matter who you are, even the people in the band, we have different reasons for
Yes.
having connections to these songs, you know. And this one, just even just from a lyrical perspective, again, this is when you start kind of starting to see that, you know, because when everything like kicks back in again after when the song really gets going,
Mhm.
with the blast beat section, the lyric is "Fear my mind," which,
Yes.
you know, I'm gonna leave that section to Adam, because I know that that's very personal to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this song. This song has a lot, dude. It does a lot. It does a lot. It does a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Like DeAndre said, it's a very like emotional song, and I will preface this with I do have to get Jess from work at like 10:30, so I probably will have to hop off.
Yeah, that's fine.
After this, but yeah, it's very emotional. I had a really hard time practicing it, and I think maybe recording it. But just really builds that ball up in my throat, and the lyrics that really, like the beginning of the song, the "Here I lay, bound in the hunt and wake, I stalk my oblivious prey." Like just the feeling and the tone of it is already like melancholy and unsettling. But once you start to get further into the lyrics, like, and I didn't even realize it until like after we did the pre-pro for it and listening to like me actually doing it. But I have a sister who has like struggled with cancer for a while, and specifically brain cancer. Um, so just diving into, like, yes, there is this psychological aspect to it, but one that you wouldn't expect because it's super specific, like to me, is
Yes.
"Fear my mind, once a lush land of gold, has become ripe and barren, tainted by unclean souls." And it just like reminds me a lot of my sister, because she's still lucid and she's still there, and like very much so her still,
Yes.
but it's a very like a blurry version of her.
Yeah.
And it was just sort of a like a unintentional metaphor for that. Like she used to, you know, be so outgoing and you know, upbeat, and seeing her go from that to over the years, how she is now, I don't want to say it's sad, but at the same time it is. Like, I don't want to say it's sad because it's my sister, but at the same time it is, and that's the hard truth of it. And that's just sort of some of the things we tackle in this. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to backtrack, but in "We Are Eternity," like, maintain the mental seclusion. Uh, that, like, that mentality is just you know, another piece into this, just
Yeah.
sort of cloaking like the mythology and the beautiful lyrics, like cloak what's underneath them. But yeah, that meeting was like really specific to me, but it just really got me.
Yeah.
And uh, Yeah, DeAndre's singing is just perfect in it.
Mhm.
It's totally not forced. It's almost as if like it feels like someone came up behind you and you didn't even realize that they were patting you on the back, but you didn't
Yeah.
realize until they were like doing that.
Yeah.
Almost like, oh, it's here.
Reassuring.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So
Angel on your shoulder type of thing.
yeah, yeah. Not anything like, it's just almost like, oh, I didn't even know I needed to hear that in this
Mhm.
song. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's also I reference one of my favorite poems by W.B. Yeats in this song as well, because it's like the I guess this is the technically the second verse or the verse, I guess it's hard to say, but it's it's kind of how we start to pull back into the story a little bit,
Yeah.
while still maintaining that again that that sadness and that just like that, I don't know, that heavy weight and emotional feeling, like
Yeah.
the part, lay your heaven at my feet, things once blue and dim in the end will nourish me. I'll tread softly upon your dreams, soon they will be ripe for the rotting. Once gold and silver and embroidered cloth have been lost in the culling.
Mhm.
It's like, it's like, going through that, like it's a lot of it's I the poem by W.B. Yeats is not exactly that. Obviously, it's similar. There are concepts pulled from that poem and like placed into this, like the "Lay Your Heaven at My Feet" part, for example. And
Yeah.
like that's one of those kind of like, it's a the end of that poem being "Tread softly, for you tread on my dreams."
Yes.
It's I'm nothing but a poor man, and I only have my dreams. Like I have nothing else. All I have is this. So
Mhm.
I'm giving you all I have left.
Yes.
So like,
Help
please
me.
don't, please don't fuck it up. You know what I mean? Because that's
Yeah.
the only thing I have left. But the thing is, you're hearing it from the other side, and that's the side that's not there to help you. Like
Right.
because it's I have the from a lyrical perspective, that character is telling you, hey, bring me all you have left, and I will take care of it. But I'm going to take care of it in the way that I see fit to take care of it.
Mhm.
And in that situation, again, talking about it from the perspective of the story, it's a very dark story. So it becomes a
Yes.
matter of it being, give me all you have left, all that's left in your mind, and I'm
Mhm.
going to take it and I'm going to destroy it. Because again, it's that other side that you don't want to listen to.
Yeah.
It's that side of you that's saying you're not good enough. It's that side of you that says everything everything you do is worthless. You're
Right.
worthless. It's that part of it, right? Because at the end of the day, you strip away everything you have, all of your the computer I'm talking to you guys on, my phone that's sitting right next to me, my screens, my guitars, whatever. You strip all that away. The only thing you have left is your thoughts, is you
Yes.
and who you are. But if you give that away, if you get rid of that, or if that's the thing that you are, or obviously not you literally, but that's the thing that's being attacked, or that's the thing that you're
Mhm.
saying, or you hear in your head that's not worth anything, where
Yes.
that's the most valuable thing you have.
Mhm.
In this context, it says, like I said, I'll tread softly upon your dreams. Soon they will be ripe for the rotting. And
Yes.
remember, the whole point is coming to that end, and the end of the story is that everything is over.
Mhm.
And knowing that, it makes it that much more complicated
Yes.
for us, right? Like we want to put out a good product. You know what I mean? Of course, we want to have fun and make music, but it's like, when you sit and you kind of pay attention to what it is, because I can tell you, dude, while we were recording this and while writing these parts and all that kind of stuff, we were like, oh, that's sick, that's gonna sound super cool. Or I would send a paragraph to Adam like, hey, here's a part I wrote, like just different stuff like that, and we're
Yes.
excited about it. And it's not until it's done and we listen to it and we hear the delivery of what it is, and when it's tangible, is
Yes.
when the stuff starts to make that much more sense.
Mhm.
And that's why when you have a part like that, or really anything else throughout the song, which I'll jump to the pretty much the climax of the song in a second, but you have a lot of those concepts that we talk about throughout the album being very, very final and very, very
Yes.
very upsetting, you know. And again,
Right.
that concept of you got nothing else but yourself,
Right.
you know.
Exactly.
So when you start to break that down and you become your worst enemy, then
Yeah.
you don't
Then you're
have
fucked.
anything else left. You the only the all of that is lost to the culling of you attacking yourself. You know.
Yeah. And
Yeah. Sorry.
love this song. For one, for two, when I remember noticing the primary title, I'm like, what does that mean? And then I'm like, oh, duh. There's parentheses, and it's like we are bound by terror. I'm like, bingo, anxiety, and like intrusive thought, the negative side of yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
with the insight, with the explanation that we're getting, this definitely reminds me of like me always like people, a handful of people have always thought of me and is like naively optimistic, right? Very hopeful. I like to have a positive outlook on things. And every now and then it's like, but what if I like stopped being the nice guy? What if I stopped being so optimistic? What if I stopped sometimes letting people walk all over me? And I kind of decided to submit and kind of surrender all of my more positive aspects and all of my optimism, my spirit per se. And like, how would that end up? How would that result for me in the future? And that's kind of like what this song reminds me of, is that process of like, damn, like adults always have seemed so bitter to me. Or like when I say adults, I mean like my parents' generation and shit. Like they it seems like they gave up their hopes and dreams a long time ago and like almost became black and white instead of being so colorful. And that's also what the song reminds me of. But that's like that would be my commentary on it.
And then you know, that's an immediate and obvious representation of why the song is in black and white, or why the video is in black and white. You know, it's like we when I was putting together the treatment for the video and I was coming up with all the shots and all the stuff and all the concept photos and all the like the vision board, I guess you can call it. It was all in black and white. But I didn't want to commit to it yet. So when we were actually doing the video and we got the first cut, it was in color. I did tell Toddy, I was like, hey, dude, just desaturate it, though. Like, desaturate it, because I don't know if I want to commit to the black and white yet. Let's just do it desaturated and go from there. We'll keep some color in it. And then he sent me the cut. And before we sent him any notes at all, the first thing I said was, send me a black and white cut as well.
Okay.
Let's just see. So I told the dudes, I was like, let's just see it. You know, that's what my vision was initially. It was, this has to be in black and white. Because I want it to be, as you know, it's this song is very clear to me, at least. It's very clear.
Yeah.
And it is black and white. It's very obvious. Which is part of the reason why, ironically, I did obscure the title a little bit by putting the title in Italian. Because it was, I know everyone doesn't speak Italian. I know that. I don't speak Italian. You know, so it's like, but I wanted to obscure that title just a little bit. Because everything else is so clear and obvious.
Yes.
So that's what that was. But when he sent that cut in black and white and I sent it to the guys, and Adam's immediate reaction was, yes, this is what it was supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah. And I was like, and seeing it in black and white, and then like, obviously the world will never see it in color, but seeing it in color, it was like, yeah, this is a cool video. And then seeing it in black and white, it was like, holy shit, this whole song, like, it became one piece.
Yeah.
And it did that thing I was talking about earlier of becoming one picture.
Right.
You know, and like working off of these ideas and all this stuff. Cause like one of the and I can see it right now looking at the treatment. The first image in the treatment is that falling, like that falling into that emptiness. I was like, I told Toddy, I was like, we need to figure out how to get that to work, because I need to be falling. I don't know how we're gonna do it. We gotta figure it out. And we managed to do it, and it looked great, you know. And it was a lot of that kind of just like that falling into that darkness that's just never ending, you know. And that's why there's a lot of that empty space, and there's we're in that area for the like that nice area for the performance shots, but
yes,
for the more intimate and close-up shots, we're in that deep expanse of blackness.
Yeah, I love it.
You know,
it's a great touch,
and they're all metaphors and all different stuff to you know, the whole thing. And then just to round out this song really quickly, I know we've got to jump to other stuff. The middle section where we come out of that breakdown and we just go into the clean singing part, which is the intrinsically such claims should bear terror, but fear escapes me. Like coming out of, I should actually go back just a little bit. Sorry. The breakdown is two vocal parts happening at the same time, which is drowned in your mind. That's the main line. It's just really extended for a long time. But it's the vocals around it that completes the idea, which is under the weight of seclusion in your mind, because they come together at the same time.
Yes.
So when he says drowned, it's drowned and then under the weight of seclusion. So it's like we're completing two different lyrical ideas on top of each other.
Yes.
So it's finishing that and kind of like continuing to tell that part of the story of you're the thing that again I was saying earlier in the song, that your most valuable possession is the thing that you are allowing, or maybe not allowing. I don't want any of the things that I'm saying to be taken as me undermining what people go through when I say that kind of stuff. But
right.
It's like, I'll say it for myself then in that case, like me undermining my own mind, undermining myself and saying that I am not good enough, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. So it's like drowned under the weight of seclusion, that emptiness. I put myself there. I'm in my own box.
Yes.
And that box is bad for me because I'm saying that I am the worst person in this box, or whatever it is that I'm doing is the worst thing I've done that's in this box.
Yeah.
The song I wrote is the worst song I wrote, or that thing I said to my girlfriend in 1997 is the worst thing that I ever said to somebody. You know what I mean? Like whatever thoughts you have, whatever's there is the stuff that gets locked there. But as you go through that part, when you get to the screaming wraith spells out doom, and then following directly after that is my part, which is the intrinsically such claims should bear terror, which is like inherently inside, that all of what we're saying should be bad.
Yes.
All of it should be bad. But we get to the second part of that being, but fear escapes me. A sudden calm engulfs me in tapestries sewn by the Erinyes, which is that's a reference, a Greek mythology reference to the Erinyes. But it's that piece of, there is something there. We can't really tell what it is just yet. There is something there. That's why in the video you have the witch. She has that cloth that she's like messing with and like sewing. And that whole "we're bound by terror." And then Adam says directly after my part directly after the part where me and him are going back and forth vocally, Adam says we are tethered in the end. Again, this is the time where we're telling you, bro, this is the same. This is all in here. Yeah, it's all there. It's all who you are. It's like they are the same. But Song by the Erinyes, and then you have the what do you want to see, and it's like, just show me the truth in the end, but that will expose me. It's like if I tell you what the truth is I'm also telling you who I am, and who I am is you. But then you get to that part, it's like your lies keep growing thin. Because like the more and more you tell, the more and more things you say to me, and that literally is a reference to the album. But the longer you listen to the album, the more and more you'll start to see these things are not true, or these things they're lies, for lack of a better term.
Yes.
Just show me the truth in the end, but that will expose me, and then your lies keep growing thin. And then he says, "Worry not, you won't need them, for we are tethered in the end." You're not going to need the lies, because you'll find that you'll realize it, and I'm going to tell you flat out, we're the same. And that's where a lot of the kind of story perspective comes in, and there's a very common thread here, which I tried my best to jump between the story that that's constructed, and then I also wanted to continue to tell my own story, or the pieces of the story that can be interpreted by different people, to the point where the vocalist that's screaming it has his own interpretation of what it means, because it's meant to be something deeply connected. And I feel, and this is something that me and Adam have both said seriously as well as jokingly, that me and him are connected. And it's just to the point where, and the joking part of it, not to bring the mood to somewhere else, but the joking part of it is, me and him tend to FaceTime each other, and we'll both be sitting on the toilet. It's like,
that happens.
It happens frequently.
Right.
It's like, I'll just call him real quick because we FaceTime a lot. I'm super big on FaceTiming people who I love, people who are close to me who I can't see frequently. I won't call you on the phone. I don't like texting. I'll FaceTime you. I want to see you. I want to see you when I talk to you. So I FaceTime Adam, and it's like, for example, like I said, I was referencing me and him talking the other day. I called him by accident and immediately hung up, and then I FaceTimed him.
Yeah.
He's like, "What are you doing? You're on the point. We gotta talk."
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel that again. I'm gonna say this real quick. I know Adam's gonna jump. Yeah. Go ahead, Adam. Say what you're gonna say, and then I'll continue.
Oh no, I was gonna say I actually got to get going.
Yeah.
But hey, Sean,
yes, sir.
It was awesome talking with you, bro. I know it's been like a long time coming, but I'm super glad that we got to do this and that we, got to have some face-to-face time. It's been awesome, and just talking about the concepts and everything with you and giving you some insight has been great, man.
Dude, it's mutual. I've loved this opportunity, man. You be sure to stay safe out there tonight.
I will, bro. I will. Y'all have a good
one. All right,
yeah, you too, man. Later.
I'll check you, dude.
Peace.
There you go.
So, and to finish that point really quickly, again, like I say it in a funny way, but me and Adam have been connected in a lot of different ways. And we've had a lot of similar experiences or different stuff like that. So I feel like, I'll write a section or I'll write something and it'll speak to him, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Or whatever the case is, when I was just writing it because that's just how I felt. But this song specifically, excuse me.
You're good.
This song just has like so much of that, so much of this like just emotional connection and emotional weight and stuff like that. And it was like, how can we my goal every time is always how can I convey that stuff to you in a way that's, it's still metal, it's still heavy, it's still whatever evil, dark, however you want to interpret it, but
yeah,
there's a message there. There's a deeper message there that's more important than how heavy the breakdown is or the weird crazy noises that Adam's making or the way that I'm singing. You know what I mean? I just watched watching reactions is one of my favorite things, man. Like I every single time you put out a reaction, I watch it. Every single time,
I appreciate that.
No matter how big or small the YouTube channel is, I watch every single one of those reactions because I truly want to know what people think of the stuff that it is. I mean this in the best way possible. I'm not writing the songs for anybody else other than myself, but it's always interesting. I always love to know what people think about it. And there was a reaction that I'll reference. I'm not gonna say any names, but it was for Siamo or for Tyre. And man, did that dude hate the vocals? He hated the clean singing, and it was interesting to watch because I know the song obviously, and a lot of times, I would say 9 out of 10 times these reactions are first time hearing a song, and this one was this guy's first time hearing the song because he didn't listen to the album, he checked out the singles and stuff, and I know the clean singing is coming. He doesn't know that, so as he's listening to it, and we get to the first clean singing section, which is behind Adam's part, he was super into it, and then that part came in, he went, and then they continued listening, and he was still into it, and then when my part kicks in for the first time, where I'm singing by myself, he literally went, "Oh, God, no!" And I'm just like, I'm watching this, I'm like, oh, this guy. And my girlfriend, I'll never forget. My girlfriend she was sitting right here on the floor, and she doesn't like to watch it, but she wants to be there because she's one of those like secondhand embarrassment people. So she's more embarrassed or uncomfortable. Not embarrassed. She gets uncomfortable watching those as if she's the person that made it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I know what's happening. I made the song. I know how it is. And she says it when she's watching them. She's like, "How do you do this?" I was like, I love to know. I love to know. But we get to the part, and I said it like after that, I was like, wait till he gets to the middle, dude, because I start singing more. And we got to the middle, and he did not like it. He was not happy. Not happy. Gets to the end of the song, and he was super unhappy about it. But you know what I mean? At the end of the day, I get it. I've always known that this was, I said it to my girlfriend a million times. Like, I knew this was a risk, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, it was the difference with this album versus the last one. And I'm not going to count God Killer in there because God Killer has
Its
clean
own
vocals,
thing.
but that was after. It's exactly its own thing, and it was also written after Eternity.
Mm.
After all these decisions were made with Eternity, it was I'm gonna do this stuff because this is what the songs are calling for. You know, this is
Yeah.
something that a conversation that me and my old drummer had a bunch of years ago. Shout out to my boy Brandon. It was something that me and him were talking about. We were like throwing out all these crazy ideas. Oh, we should do this in a song. We should do that in a song. And I remember we stopped for a second. We thought about all the different crazy shit and crazy ideas we just came up with, and we were like, you know what? Let's just do what the song calls for. Let's just do what sounds right. You know what I mean? Let's not go because that's something. As soon as I sit down to write a song, and I say I'm going to write a song that does this, never fucking works. The song ends up being crap. Like right now, I'm stuck. I'm stuck on track number 6 of the next record, and I can't get past this song because every time I go to try to write a new song or work on something, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna write a song that kind of has this vibe, and then
Right.
it ends up sounding like garbage. But the clean singing, and especially in this song, because funny enough, this song was actually supposed to be an album cut, but Jesse was like, nah, dude, that song is great. And this was
It's
way
great.
before the song had any lyrics or before the song was done. It was like up to the point where my clean singing part starts. And then the part directly after that, and that was all that was written. And I was showing them, this was years ago, I was showing the guys, and I was like, I don't know, I might scrap this one. And he was like, nah, dude, you got to finish that.
Yeah, keep it, man.
And I thank him greatly for it because it came out to be one of our favorite songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's Terror.
Right.
We'll speed run the Trinity because it's the trilogy. People are calling them trilogies. I call this one the Trinity because it's related to the album.
Yeah. That's more relevant to the album's lore, per se.
Exactly. So I'll speed run this one real quick. The Hunt of the Wraith, the Court of the Trinity. I'm sorry, the Hunt of the Wraith, the Book of the Eldritch, and the Court of the Trinity are and also by just their name, first movement, second movement, final movement.
Yes.
Those are just references to classical orchestral music because I'm a huge fan of classical and orchestral music, which I'm pretty sure is obvious based on the orchestral elements on the albums, or on the album and everything else. Which, spoiler alert, it's not going anywhere. It's only becoming more a part of our music. So that'll be my quick little tidbit for the future of our music, the stuff I'm working on currently. I almost want to create this like fake hype that the album is an orchestral album that just has some metal parts to it. I'm gonna say that and let that be what it is. We just use that as a soundbite.
Let's do it.
It's like, yeah, this is the next album is going to be an orchestral album with some metal influence.
Let's do it.
But in all honesty, that the orchestral classical stuff's not going anywhere. It's only becoming more and more because I'm studying it more, becoming more into it and stuff. But the Trinity, it was not meant to be that. It was not 3 songs that were meant to be together at all. Actually, they were. I'm pretty sure that's track 5, 6, and 7. Originally, it was track 5. Track 5 was always the Hunt of the Wraith, which that was originally called the Hunt of Hounds. It had a bunch of different names, but the Hunt of the Wraith was the way more logical because it's an immediate reference to Terror, back to the first lyric of the song of "Here I lay, bound to the hunt." So it was like the Hunt of the Wraith. So now it's like this is what it actually is. This is the hunt of that character, right? So it's telling that piece of the story again. That non-linear storytelling is my favorite thing.
Sorry, one second. Continue, sir.
You're good. The Hunt of the Wraith. That song was. It's actually the slowest song on the album. It's at like 112 BPM or something like that. But that allowed it to be like super rhythmic. Which I like a lot of us, I'm a fucking huge fan of Meshuggah. So it was like, how can I make something just like, how can I homage Meshuggah somehow,
Okay.
Just something super groovy, something rhythm based that's not too ridiculous. But the whole intro is like that, big epic black metal, whatever thing and stuff. Like the original version of it had a bunch of shitty chords in the beginning of it, but I learned music theory in the time of working on that album, and I was like, I need to fix this because it sounds bad. So I cleaned it up. The chords sound a lot better. Lyrical content. This song is super. I think it's super obvious as far as like it being like this is the official transition into telling the truth of the album. And this happens in because it happens technically because it's not other things. This album was supposed to be 10 tracks long. But then I ended up deciding on 9 because that would put 5 dead in the middle. So you have 4 on both sides, and then have the 5th song dead smack in the middle.
Okay.
But it's also the first part of the Trinity. It's also it's a lot of stuff. That song plays a lot of points. Where Terror is the bridge. Terror is the lead up to the bridge, and Hunt is the bridge.
Yes. Okay.
So it's like that's dead smack in the middle of the album. So the whole first half of the album is setting it up, and the second half of the album is where shit hits the fan.
Yes.
So you have the lyrical section, like the pre-chorus is really where that stuff starts to come alive. Where the lyric is, "Are you hurt? Did you lose your way? Now take my hand and come with me. Don't be afraid. Everything will be okay. Don't worry. Deceit comes natural to me." So it's like, are you okay? You're fine, right? Here, I got you. Come with me. Come on, I got you. You'll be okay. I'm just letting you know I'm lying to you. But yeah, come on, come on. That's literally what I when I was writing the ideas and I was telling Adam, I was like, I want this to be really obvious. So the last lyric is literally, deceit comes natural to me. I'm lying to you. Like, I'm just gonna tell you.
Right.
And then the chorus, lead me to damnation. Lead me to damnation. Back to where I know all who suffer. Oh, great usurper. Your path imbued with soot and sulfur. Again, super obvious. With now I'm starting to understand it. Thanks, man. The fact that you know that makes me so happy. Yeah, it's like this song is the one where it's like, all right, holy shit, I've been lied to this whole fucking time. Okay, cool. I guess this is I'm in too deep at this point. You know what I mean? Like that's what the point of the album. That's where you are in the record. You're in too deep now. Now it's going down.
No way back.
So it's like that's why exactly. So that's why I'm saying it. Like, lead me to damnation. All right, it be what it be. And as we progress, and I'll talk. This will actually direct into the next song. More of the lyrical content too. Like directly after the chorus, the first chorus, it's the lyric. The river has claimed another. Like it's like. You're not the first person to go through this. You know what I mean? You're not the first person to have these problems. You're not the first person you're not the only person to deal with this. You're not the only person in the world who has these thoughts or these feelings. So
Hello?
Second.
Oh, okay. No problem.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, my AirPods died. So
I think you might need to turn the mic up a little bit, but I can hear you. That's when the podcast has been pretty long now. So the AirPods die.
Okay, how about now? What are we looking at?
Just a little bit more.
More? Okay.
Yeah.
Get a little more juice in here. Okay, let's bump it to. How about that?
Yes, that's fine.
Cool. Yeah, it was. Hold on, sorry.
You're good.
Let's go right about there. Hey. Okay.
Hey, yo.
All right. Yeah, that let's see, there we are. Yeah, the river claims another, like again, like that concept of, you're not the only person to deal with these problems. And, and even though, we just came out of the other song where it's like the whole point of the song is actually not even that song, but we just came out of a bunch of songs where we flat out said like, mental seclusion and all this stuff. Like a lot of that
is not the way.
I'm sorry.
It's like that is not the way.
Exactly, man. It's like you seclude yourself. You end up, isolating yourself from a lot of things, and a lot of things that, and not even just people who can help you, but just a lot of different
opportunities,
opportunity for help. You know what I mean? And you know, for a lot of us in the metal community, that thing is metal, you know, and the community that is metal, you know. That's why, not to get too deep into this concept, but that's one of the reasons why, like, the whole fucking just toxicity in this community is insane. It's insane. We're all here for almost the same reasons. How are we this toxic to each other? I don't get it. Oh, but whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm gonna get off my soapbox. Keep talking about my album. Yeah, you know, so like that's what that is. You know what I mean? Like it's really a lot of like because we even say it in the chorus, like, I mean, the pre-chorus, like, are you hurt? You know, like, did you lose your way? Like that stuff is there, you know. But then we got to keep it in theme to the record, and you know, it becomes dark again. But that now transitions into just a piece of kind of like insider stuff with this song too. The solo that's in this song it was this close to being the pre-pro scratch version of the solo, because the solo was too perfect to re-record it. I ended up re-recording it anyway, but it's not, to me, everyone has heard the version that they heard, but to me, it's not as good as the pre-pro version of the solo.
Interesting.
The pre-pro version of the solo, to me, it was the right solo for what it was, but it was one of those kind of things where the magic was in the recording of it, and like wherever I was when I tracked it, I might have been in my old apartment, whatever the case is, it was the right version of that solo. But unfortunately, it was a little out of key. Oh, I realize I'm also okay. That might be better too. I realized I was slightly panned to the right. The original solo was a little out of key because of certain sections, and I was changing stuff and whatnot.
Yeah.
But the version of the solo that's there, still dope. I still love it. It's still one of my favorite solos.
It's great.
Thank you. It's one of my favorite solos I've ever written. I took some risks with it, especially that dive bomb at the end, which you know, when I was looking at the notes and like learning all that stuff and learning key and learning notes and theory and stuff, I was like, that note is not right. But then as I kept learning a little bit deeper, thankfully I did keep learning and I didn't immediately change it.
Yeah.
I found out that it actually is accurate. It is actually But that's just like some small details with that. Then the ending, the orchestral ending was originally there, but I then bridged it into Eldritch, which originally it was. Technically speaking, the song that was supposed to come after this one is the last song, Vicious Attenuation. But Eldritch as I was going through and changing the track list, Eldritch just worked perfectly.
Yeah.
The original version of this, which I'm going to shout out to my beautiful girlfriend, Kelly, she that girl is the fucking best. She supports a lot of my ridiculous ideas. And one of my ridiculous ideas was when I was before I got heavy into orchestration parts of like really heavy into it. The beginning of that song originally was just like these really dooky sounding strings.
Yeah.
They were not well written at all because I didn't know theory yet. I had some dooky ass samples that weren't that good. But I had this crazy idea. I was like, yo, how cool would it be if we had a choir singing which is actually not in the song anymore, but there was a vocal at the end of Vicious Attenuation, like that whole part where it's just the band riffing until the very end of the song.
Yeah.
There was originally a long, clean vocal section over that, and then there was like this like interweaved like screaming vocal thing that I did.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't right. So we'll
next time
in a minute. But the part lyrically, I had this idea of having a choir sing the lyrics in Italian over this part, over the intro to Eldritch. But I don't know a choir that sings Italian. So I was like, I kind of sing. So I'm gonna write it out. I Google translated it. I had a friend of mine ask a different friend to verify that it was accurate. Because I have a friend, we have a mutual friend that speaks Italian.
Okay.
I had them verify the lyrical content was accurate, and then we went from there, and it was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna just track this crazy idea. I did it, but it was missing something. I asked my girlfriend, I was like, babe, just do me this favor, just do me a favor, I need you to sing all this crazy shit with all these weird harmonies and shit. And she sang in the whole thing. I just listened to it for the first time a couple of days ago. It sounds like shit. Oh, dude, it sounds so bad. It sounds so bad. the idea is there. It's
Mhm.
super there. I that's the thing. I have all these crazy ideas. I want to try wild shit.
Yeah.
And then I'll try it and realize it was bad. The idea was super cool. I think if I put it in the hands of people who were way more capable, it might have been super awesome.
Mhm.
But it just I'm doing pre-pro. I'm sitting in my fucking in one of the spare bedrooms in my house, and this is when I was in the room next to this one. And I just called my girlfriend. I was like, all right, just roll with me. All right, just do the sing when I'm singing, but sing it in this note. And I would hit a note on my keyboard, and then I would have her sing that note. Okay, sing this note, and then we sing that, and I tuned the whole
That's
thing.
cool.
And it took forever. It took way too long just for me to listen to it like the next day, and I was like, this is fucking horrible. It's like, forget it. So yeah, that ended up when I got better at orchestration and all that kind of stuff. I just wrote that big long intro that it is now. We added that vocal part that's in the beginning of the song that wasn't there. We added that pretty last minute with that ingest your final thoughts as I flay your mind before your eyes. That lyric, I'm gonna be completely honest with you, it's a lyric that has to do with the lore of the story. I just really wanted to use the word flay because I just thought flay your mind sounds really cool considering the concepts and the theory logic, and I'm sorry, the lore of the story that we're talking about. Flay works perfectly, but it also sounds super evil if you say flay anything.
Yeah, I mean, dude, Mind Flayer, Stranger Things, boom.
Exactly. So yeah, there's that. But this song is the song that has one of my favorite lyrical passages in the entire album.
Okay.
Which I'll read here, which is so there's a lot of this one section has a lot of musical concepts attached to it, but I just switched them to make them more lyrical. So it's this section is leading into the next section, but it's a cacophony of psalms sung loud by disciples, voiced in demonic unison. That then transitions into the next part, which is my favorite part, which is they play to you. Can you feel it? The strings vibrating, bows grace your end in harmonic enslavement. Listen intently, for you must not miss it. A symphony tuned beautifully to your doom. That is one of my I think it is the best thing I've ever written, and it's probably my favorite thing I've ever written.
Some slam poetry right there.
And it thank you. It was like I like I said, I'm a huge fan of the orchestra and classical elements, choir and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, what ways can I say that in the story of all this, right? And it's like, we're talking about something that's happening while you're listening to it. You're listening to which there may come a time where the orchestral version of this album comes out. It might
that'd be cool.
It might not, only because it was not technically complete. So there are like chunks of nothing. Yeah, it's like you got all this choir and orchestra and all this beautiful stuff, and it's silent. It just disappears. Because quite honestly, I didn't know what to do. I would just be real with you. I didn't know what to do. Where now that I have more knowledge under my belt, the songs are now full songs.
Yes.
So the next record may have a orchestral version. But
sick.
This one, it had like just that concept attached to it, right? Like this kind of like very musical thing. And then this is the chorus that surprisingly I haven't really heard much about, because this was the chorus I was most nervous for, because I'm singing real fucking high. But it's I can feel it as the terror slowly creeps around my head, infecting what's left of me, the abyss consuming. So again, those concepts, the terror.
All back to the abyss.
Exactly. And then throughout the song, you'll get directly after that, at the cusp of the field, you'll find a stairway down. We keep coming back to that stuff because I want that to stick. You know what I mean? I want those ideas to stick. I want those lyrics to stick, because the last lyric of the album is a part of that. And then, another conceptual piece being the dark night of the soul, which is a very interesting concept to look into, that I won't spoil. It's very, very, it's very introspective and very like, it's a very personal thing, which is why I implore anyone who's listening to this, as well as you as well, if you have not heard of it, Sean, look into the dark night of the soul. It's a very interesting kind of like written concepts and stuff.
Sick.
But yeah, and then you have the whole end of the song, which is just like the kind of like like, now I'm telling you, like from my perspective, being the it's a callback to a lyric earlier in the song, which I'll say, which was Adam's, which was have you begun the sermon, the eldritch transformation carried out by the wraith devouring depression. When it comes back later in the song and I'm singing it, it's I have begun the sermon, my eldritch transformation, guided through by the wraith, attuned to my depression. So it's that, it's the just a callback kind of thing, yes, but it's also from a lyrical perspective, it's the literal representation of I am saying, like, I have, I've begun the sermon. I'm starting to accept it. I'm starting to realize that this is what it is. And it's being led by the wraith, which we find out in, in the story that the wraith is Adam. Adam is this other part of my mind is the wraith. We're just, again, we're assigning names to these things to make them more real. No matter how not real they are, or no matter how real they may seem. When it's like that concept with an animal. If you name an animal, you've now become connected to it, even just by naming it. That's why you'll see it in farms, like they won't name a cow or something, because it's like, no, it's not a pet, it's food. It's not meant to be connected to, but as soon as you name something, you become connected to it. So in this case, it's like, it's me naming the problems. It's like that's essentially what that is. So being the wraith, like, that's a name, whether it's a positive or a negative name, it's a name nonetheless. And it says, in this case, it's not devouring depression, but it's attuned to my depression. It's the same frequency as my depression. It is. So it's like, that's what that is. Where when Adam said it, it's devouring depression. It's consuming, and it's living off of that. But then in this case, I say that it's attuned to it. And then before that, sorry, I jumped the gun. Being Adam says, the mouth of eternity consuming. Because again, it's that, like, we want it to be, eternity is this like looming real thing in all of this lore and all of this stuff that's not real, and stuff that's in your mind. The one thing that's real is that concept is, whatever happens is for eternity. It's like, that's what that is. And then smooth transition into Court of the Trinity. Which that again is just like the big monster of the song. It's fucking 7 minute just beast mode the whole time. I don't think the song at any point drops below 125 or 130 BPM or 250 for the drummers out there. Jesse could tell you that more specifically, but that song, it just beats you to hell the whole way. Lyrically, it's just a fucking unforgiving beast. I also apologize to Adam for this one, because it's like, I was like, what if we do this and this and this and this, and kept going. So now when I listen to the song, I'm listening to the song and I'm just like, oh, man. And we're figuring out the set for live stuff, and the guys put this song in there, and I'm like, you guys are nuts. They're like, yeah, we should play Court. I was like, oh God, okay. Yeah, this is gonna be a fun when the live stuff happens. It's gonna be a fun set.
I'm sure, man.
Yeah. So it's like, this song is like, again, we're getting closer and closer to the end. So like the very beginning of the song, the lyric being, cling to the edge of the river, peer into the deep. It's like, you're there, bro. It's that's it. You're getting off that boat. You're here now. You are at the field. You are in this realm of whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, peer into the deep. Know what your existence was, and know that whatever your plight, whatever you're going through is there. And then it's just, this song is a little bit less of a like deep dive personally, more of the lore of the story, really. Because this song was kind of written very early, and it kind of just took shape, and then I adjusted the lyrics over time, so that they fit the story a little bit better. Because this one, like I said, was just a lot of cool concepts and different ideas that we had, and it being the longest song on the record, if memory serves me correctly, it's the longest song on the record.
Probably,
it just had like a lot of cool ideas that I just wanted to throw in. Of course, yes, it's attached. It has all of the same stuff. There is one thing in there that is very personal to me, and I would go as far as to say me and the Black community, being it's a very weird way to say it, but there's a lyric in here that says blades will swing, attaching pain to your ancestry. And that's talking about generational trauma.
Right.
You know, I not to get too deep into, you know, Black culture and Black history and stuff, but that specifically is speaking to generational trauma, and that concept of generational trauma, that something, you know, like slavery, for example, was something that I don't give a fuck who you are, no matter how much you want to try to forget it or try to pretend it didn't happen. It is one of the worst atrocities that this country has ever fucking done. You know, and then that can transition not only just to the Black community, but every single people that have been fucking persecuted and been put down by America. You know what I mean? Like, it's just what it is. You know, I don't fuck who you are. I don't care where you're from or whoever you are. For me, it's that's what that is. That is talking about the slavery and the different pieces of generational trauma and you know, racism and things prior to the civil rights movement, and then even things after. So, you know, like people want to say that, oh, don't get political, whatever, like that. This to me is not political. This to me is about deep rooted and deep existence of problems. But that's just, you know, one lyric in the whole entire album that has any sort of potential political fucking
dude, whatever. It's your thing. You're doing your thing.
You know, it's like, look, bro, I'm a Black man in a very white ran genre. Yeah, it's gonna come into it. You know, I'm gonna say something. It's just gonna happen.
Utilize your platform. Utilize your ability to make art and write music and fucking represent your culture.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And you know, like that's where that comes from. But I really don't like getting political and metal. It's just it's something that's just, to me, is unnecessary. But you know, like, this to me is not something that's political. It's more about like just human rights. But you know, like the chorus again is just a good reference, like fire from the old gods, you know, it's just different stuff like that, just like referring throughout the album, and kind of tying the story together, and less more of the personal connection that we have to the whole entire record. And then, like I said, this was the one that almost broke Jesse. Again, shout out to my boy, he's my man's, and he got through it. But I remember, dude, that there were a couple of, I think we took 4 days to record this song, 3 days maybe.
Oh shit.
And it was 8-hour days, except for the last day was like 10 and a half, almost 11 hours of that kid just fucking playing. It's straight. He didn't fucking eat, dude. All he did, I'm not kidding, and I'm not trying to sensationalize the story. All he did was play drums, eat protein bars, and pee. That was it. That's all he did the whole time, was drink.
Devoted to his craft.
He drank some red juice. It was like, I think it was pre-workout. I don't know what it was. He was just drinking some red shit, eating protein bars, and he would just get up every like 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours to go pee. It's like, bruh, I peed 16 times in the last 32 minutes. Like, why are you going to the bathroom once every 3 to 5 hours? But he didn't want to get up from that kit, man. He was determined to get through that track, and then every night, and it was just me, him, and the guy recording the engineer Chris, recording that track, recording the drums, and we got to the last day of that song, and we were like, okay, we got to finish the song, because we got fucking, this was I think the second song we recorded. It was like, we got fucking 7 more songs to record, bro. We gotta get through this. We get to the last day, and we're on, like I said, we're on like hour 10, hour 11, and I'm sorry, it was the day before. Sorry about that. It was the end of the second day, or third, whatever. He comes to the control room. He's sitting on the couch. I'm sitting on the chair, and he's like hanging his head, because he's just like, he's like, dude, and he was like,
I'm done.
He literally said to me, he was like, yo, I'm sorry, bro. I was like, oh, fuck that. No, sorry. You are doing something that I can't believe you're doing, which is playing this shit. Fuck that. Sorry, nothing. You're fucking killing it. We're halfway through the song, you know, and it's what I was talking about. You know, your own. You are
your own worst critic.
He was just beating himself up that whole time. He was like, him apologizing to me was almost like, you know, maybe I'm not good enough to do this. I was like, fuck that. Yeah, you are. If you weren't, and I said it to him, like, if something I say to my girlfriend all the time, she hates it. If this wasn't the case, this wouldn't be the case. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I said to him, I was like, if I didn't think you could do this shit, dude, you wouldn't be in the band. I know you can do this. And that's the
Yeah.
reason why I am not worried about this.
Mhm.
I was like, you don't need to be worried about me thinking you can do it or not. You know, fuck that. I know you can do it. So at that point, let's figure out, let's get it done, you know?
Right.
But yeah, that was that song. This song's fucking crazy. It's really, really wild. There's some stuff I wish I was able to go back and do over. Vocally, there's some weird stuff I didn't really like. But you know, it happens. And then there's some different stuff I'm gonna do for the next record and different mix ideas and stuff.
Can't wait to hear it, man.
Just committing to different styles, right? You know,
Yeah.
Because I'm screaming in this song, but I wasn't confident in my screaming for it, so I layered it with my like kind of grittier vocal.
Yeah.
And it just didn't sound right, and I just should have left it as screaming, but you live and you learn. Which that then ties into the next track, which is
Weep into the abyss.
Weep into the Abyss.
Sick.
Which that's just this piano ballad. I had this idea. I wanted to just play a really soft piano ballad. And I was sitting here on my tiny little keyboard, my 49 key keyboard, which I need to get a new one. Now I can actually play the piano. Need a bigger fucking keyboard, which I'm working on. I'll get it eventually, but I just wrote that idea out. I was just playing it, and then there is a recording that is in that in the background of that whole thing. It's super saturated with reverb, so it's very hard to understand, but it's about the S word. It's about that whole thing.
Right.
It's an actual interview of someone asking someone, they survived, and it was like, why did you try that? Why did you do that?
I remember that too. I recall that.
There. It's a little rough to hear the different pieces of it, of course, but it was louder in the original mix, but I didn't want it to be so in your face.
Right.
Because that's a heavy subject, man.
Back of your mind.
Exactly.
Right.
I wanted it to be more of a voice in the background, and
that's so weird too. I'm like, this sounds like an interview.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. That's cool.
Exactly what it is. It was meant to be a transitional section in the record to get to the end. It's because that is the more hopeful part of the album, to be quite transparent. It's like that one single section is the only section in the album where we talk about this heavy ass topic and it has a positive outcome. And then that goes into the next song, which for us, yeah, exactly. We get into the next song, Vicious Attenuation, which is a reference to Court of the Trinity. Because there's a part in the middle of that song where we say fuck, where is it?
Oops, sorry.
You're good. I don't remember where it is, but the lyric is it's up here. It is god damn, the song's so long. I thought it would be way easier to find this, because there's a lyric before it that I cannot remember. But I really can't find this part. Oh, here it is. Oh, yep, here it is. Okay. It's deforming so beautifully, ceremoniously separating the horror, the terror, the abyss, vicious attenuation of the whole. It's saying that the terror, the horror, the terror, and the abyss, that's the Trinity. The vicious attenuation of the whole is essentially saying that all three of those things being kind of melded into one thing is a violent act. But it's, you get to the vicious attenuation of the whole thing being, it's violently putting those things together. And it's going to be a mess, like that's pretty much what it is. But yeah, we get to the last song on the record, which is essentially that, it's the last stop on it. It's last stop to eternity. And then you get to the entire thing, and it's just talking about the concept of adding another name to the book. And that's and we say that in a lot of different ways. Like the part here is fractured bones lay at my feet, to the ledger your name must be added. And it's like, there's nowhere left to go, the field has claimed yet another, prepare your sight for what is left to come. It's super. This song is extremely bleak. extremely
As
bleak.
it should be with a tragedy. You can't
Exactly.
exactly like have a tragedy, hopeful. Like, no, this
Yeah.
is not, there's no redemption arc here for our character.
Exactly. And I feel like and this is the song that in the chorus I'm doing some screaming vocals. So I start the screaming and then Adam does the highs. So when you listen to the chorus,
Yeah.
the lower mids is me, and then the higher vocal is Adam.
Sweet.
And yeah, this song is just is super fucking, it's super bleak, you know.
As it should be. Yeah.
The I think some of the more directly darker lyrics, for example, like the this part, what's left to feel when nerves exist no more, the terror you face has been written in lore, congruent with the pain you chase, I am here to rip you down from grace. It's a lot of like very obvious, like, yo, nah, this shit's bad, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get to one of my favorite parts of the entire record, which was one of my favorite things to record, which was one of Adam's last vocals in the set, in the whole song, which is the whole ending. Oh no, that's my lyrics that I deleted. Wait, where are they? It is here. Darkness is, wait, where is it? Do I not have it written here? Oh yeah. No, yeah, it's here. Okay. There is nowhere left to go. The field is claimed. Yeah, it's the same part. Claimed another, prepare your mind for what is to come. Then it's prepare your mind for what is left to come. The only thing left is the end. Let my darkness in and embrace the terror.
Mm-hmm.
Adam did that in one take. And it was wild because like when you listen to that part, like as soon as the part drops is like when the tempo drops down and then the part comes in. Adam did the from the part where he says, when he starts off and he says added, and it's like a really long scream, and then it gets built with these other screams around it that also added.
I remember that.
Obviously not the ones built around, but that main line from then on is a one take. And I'll never forget it. It was, again, you know, my room was set up a little differently at the time, but my desk was against this wall, and Adam was actually in this corner, and I had this I have a photo rig that set up the what's it called, the fucking the stands for it. It's like for a backdrop. I set the stands for it, and I just wrapped Adam in like this like makeshift vocal booth because I didn't want to put him in my closet that I have here that I can empty out and use for vocals, because I wanted him in the room so that we can like kind of feed that energy.
Yes.
And as he was doing that part, and re-recording this album was very interesting because we were trying different things and it just didn't work, and we were like 2 days in and like the vocals weren't coming out the way we wanted it to, but you know, we were trying to record a different way and it was just more taxing. So we just decided to go back to our old way of just, we get an idea, let's record the vocal exactly how we have the idea, instead of trying to say, all right, let's do all the highs now, let's do all the lows now. But he started this part and he did pieces of it, and we did it in chunks, and I was like, yeah, it still doesn't sound that good. It still doesn't have the emotion that we're looking for. It doesn't have that like almost desperation that I'm looking for. So I was like, you know what, dude, just fucking blast it, just hit it, whole thing, just hit the whole fucking thing. And he tried it, still didn't work, oddly enough. And then, you know, we kind of just sat here for a second. We were a little upset that it wasn't happening. And then he was like, fuck it, let me just give it another. He threw the headphones on, went behind that mic. I just hit record, and I was like, cool, just let it run. And he just fucking rips it. And then the last scream is super long. And as soon as we finish it and I hit stop, like my girlfriend from the kitchen, she screams, "Oh my God."
That's amazing. I love that.
I was like, that's how you know it was right. Because she's been here the whole time. She's been listening to this dude scream with no music, because it's just us in a room. We have headphones on. So all she hears is silence and then the loudest fucking screaming on the planet. And then silence, and then more screaming. It's just, so it's super random. But that was a long section, and it was, the whole thing is a high, and he is he's singing it practically. He's fucking going for it.
Yeah.
And he got to the end of it. I hit stop, She just from the other room. Oh my God. It was fucking hilarious. And I said to her, I was like, that's the keeper. That's how you know right there, dude. Where somebody else is like, holy shit, what was that? And she's been here the whole week. She's been hearing him do the vocals. When you get that kind of reaction out of someone who's been hearing it for a while, they're like,
yeah.
Where someone who, again, not really into metal, my girlfriend gets into it now, but she's not really into it that much. And when you get that reaction from someone who's not into it but can understand and respect it,
yeah,
that's when you know, all right, cool, yep, that's it. And then we hit the very end of the record, which is the last and most depressing line. So accept the rot. And then you get the beautiful fucking nylon guitar, which again, you know, I wanted to end the record the same way I started it, in a way that you don't expect. You expect it to be the big grandiose ending, and then it's over. You know, it's like big grandiose ending, and then really soft acoustic guitar that's also being played under the sound of wind, like just soft wind howling through a house.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like that empty feeling. You know what I mean? Like that's so it's just like I didn't want to try to reference the intro again or use the same musical themes. It was like, I'll take the same concept. The continual theme from the intro and the ending is the rain and all that kind of stuff. But the melody is different, obviously. But then the instrument is it's way more stripped down. Where the intro is this big orchestral epic, the ending is a big orchestral epic that drops to just a single nylon guitar.
Right.
And
sick.
Then we get the end of that, and we get that nice little ending chord, and
and that was Eternity. No, that's awesome. And I mean, what a great way to wrap up what is episode 37 of the Anatomy podcast. It's a future me. What's up, dude? That's the end of the under the skin section. But ladies and gentlemen, this has again been episode 37 of the Anatomy podcast, now ending my time at 9:56 p.m. We had both DeAndre and Adam Mercer of A Wake In Providence, and hope to get the other dudes from A Wake In Providence in the future on the podcast. That'd be super fun. But I do appreciate you spending the time telling your story, talking about Eternity, which absolutely top 10 records, might be even climbing up places now. Just with all the context and stuff that we have been provided here in session. But yeah, we look forward to the future of A Wake In Providence going into 2023. Hopefully we can see Ignite the Church or something very similar. That would be super cool. Is there anything else you want to mention?
I'm going to do some quick plugs here, obviously, for all the obvious shit we got going on right now. Obviously, go listen to Eternity. That as you heard from this 2.5, 3 hour conversation, that this album means a lot to us, and it would mean a lot to us if you listen to it. You know, I'm not even asking people to buy it. If you want to fucking torrent it, download it, LimeWire it, whatever, fucking just listen to it, dude.
Just experience it.
Yeah, exactly. Listen to it, experience it, tell us what you think. If you fucking hate it, if you hate the clean vocals, you're doing exactly what I want you to do. I want you to hate the clean vocals. That's what it is. If you're hating the clean vocals, I'm doing something right. So yeah, you know, listen to Eternity, check it out. And then as of the recording of this, which is the 18th of September, our new music video for Siamo Legati del Torre, or We Are Bound by Terror came out this past week. Go check that shit out. Get those views up, go bump those numbers, or as my mom says, those hits.
Yeah, do it, motherfucker. Do it.
Some hits on that video. Yeah, check out the other videos, check out the other stuff, Spotify, Apple Music, all the places you listen to music. You can find Eternity, you can find everything. Do not listen to Insidious Phase 2, listen to Eternity. I almost don't want people to listen to Black Sun. Just listen to Eternity. Just listen to Eternity. But you know, fuck it, if you don't like clean singing, go listen to Insidious, dude. Whatever you want to listen to, it all still exists. If you want to listen to Phase 2, go for it, but make sure you listen to Eternity and God Killer. We will see you next year. We got some stuff that we're working on and cannot wait until we can start talking about it. But there's definitely some stuff. So we'll be the most I can say is we'll be seeing some of you guys soon.
Absolutely, man. I cannot wait to see you guys in person whenever I do, whether it be next year or the year after. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Anatomy Podcast, the freaking band glossary, US local, but reaching all across the world to Australia, fucking Spain, Germany.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, dude. It's freaking big old bear hug. It's been awesome talking with all these bands, and especially what is probably going to be the last episode of this year, that being with A Wake In Providence. I think that's a pretty good way to wrap up 2022, motherfucker.
That's what I'm saying.
All of y'all be sure to enjoy your night and stay tuned for the next episode.